I mean, how many people are impacted by a couple of hundred expressway shootings a year? I know it's a small percentage of a metro area of 7 million people, but I mean, it has a ripple effect, doesn't it? People notice these things. Number 63, when he was allegedly involved in that 2022 expressway shooting near Chinatown, he was awaiting trial on charges of aggravated battery by a firearm. And gosh darn it, Kim Foxx is devoting all of the office's resources to interdicting violent gun crime, don't you know? So he's waiting trial on aggravated battery by a firearm, and then he allegedly opened fire on the expressway near Chinatown with another dude. He was the 63rd, is now the 60th, because, you know, this cleanup of what happens on a real-time annual basis takes years. He's the 63rd person accused of shooting, killing, or trying to shoot or kill someone in Chicago in 2022 while on felony pre-trial release. The crimes have involved at least 107 victims, 29 dead. This is what we call preventable crime in common parlance. Do you think anybody notices this in the non-law abiding community? Do you think anybody notices this guy more recently? Linder Jose Galvez Carbajal has been arrested 2 more times since CWB Chicago updated his forays into the Chicagoland community since he arrived and was put up at the Standard Club as part of a migrant encampment, paid for by you.
Of course. I wouldn't want it any other way, Dan, really.
I mean, of course.
I work hard for other people all the time.
You have to earn the welcoming title. It's not just given to you.
Yeah.
Target employees reported he stole about $40 worth of Modelo beer in Santa Margarita on April 2nd. That was a recent arrest. But so he's a nonviolent crime, so he's released. He's nonviolent. Oh, yeah. A week later, he was arrested after a Chicago Fire Department crew returning from a job saw him beating up another man in the 1300 block of South Canal. And by the way, before that, before he was released after his most recent alleged theft, his previous arrests battered 2 migrant shelter employees.
Oh, okay.
Shoplifted from Nordstrom Rack. Shoplifted from Marshall's, shoplifted from Walgreens, shoplifted from Burlington. He's been arrested 7 times this year, and he's in this country illegally. You think people notice that? Does that send any sort of signal to people who have a gimme dat mentality? I want that, so I just take it. Or I don't like you, so I'm going to eliminate you. Or you slighted
the food
me.
You just served me, so I'm going to feed you.
Yeah, you slighted me in some way, or whatever. Or I just I don't like honkies or whatever. Does this go unnoticed? Are we the only ones who see this? So what are the implications? While you have the condolences to your family pro forma from city and state politicians.
Oh, they're all commented yesterday. I can't even read them. It's like, just please stop. Sit this one out. You're not doing anything to help the situation, so don't try so hard.
And so are we the only other ones to connect the dots as well? So this lawlessness that you speak of, we speak of, everyone speaks of, there's just a dark cloud over Chicago? It just occurs like the weather? It's just natural forces? Or are there responsible parties? And if they're responsible parties, could you please identify them and tell me what should be done about them? And I mean, of course, I mean the actual assailants, too, the people who commit crimes, because this seems to be very much in question as well, what we should do with people who commit crimes.
We take care more of the criminals than the victims. I don't care. And Brandon Johnson, don't let him fool you. The stupid statement he released out, pro forma. He's wanted to defund police. Don't forget what he's all about. Friday
Well,
red shirt wearer.
if there's somebody who is unclear about Brandon Johnson or thinks he or Pritzker for that matter, are friends of law enforcement, well, but that's my point.
Right.
So the same people who say we need to do something, this has to stop, are some of those people saying that Brandon Johnson has an idea, J.B. Pritzker has an idea, or what they've done to date, particularly Pritzker, he's been in office longer, has helped the situation?
No.
Is there any kind of assessment being made?
He pretty much
Is there any
stays
kind of reflection being offered that says maybe the Pritzker Purge Law, even the 2.0 version, wasn't such a good idea? Maybe, we should do something different if we want things that are bad, like people being murdered, police officers being murdered, to stop. I don't hear that conversation.
No, because that'd be admitting that they were wrong.
Ron, Southside.
Hey, good morning, Danny. Well, if you didn't see that guy was an idiot, I've been on every station, and I know I told you all he was the last person. Now people are like, hey, Ron, you're right. He's an idiot. And his response to crime is we need more resources. We need more investment. We need more affordable housing. I'm going to tell you, man,
Summer
that guy
job
is
program,
a complete idiot. Yeah. Even though there are companies begging people, to come and get a job. The guy is a complete idiot, scumbag. Have a good day.
Well, he says we need more resources, and he's taking resources away like ShotSpotter.
So I remember that it's always what people aren't doing. What do you want people to do, and how are you going to encourage them to do it? Politicians respond to pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So he's taking away ShotSpotter. He used to support defunding the police until he, middled the issue when he became a politician. And keep going. I saw somebody on the board said stop and frisk. And I'm sorry, who is going to implement that?
Even implement foot chases, let alone stop and frisk. What?
Do you see the question that everybody wants to avoid? I don't think it's that complicated. I think people know what the question is. I don't think they have an answer for it, which is why we talk around it. He's doing this and he's doing that and he's doing the other thing, and that's all bad. Yeah, I know. So what do you want to do about it? Nothing really. Or I don't know. I'd like to do something, but I don't know. That's fair. But if you're not even having the right conversation, then this is sort of the same masturbatory exercise that the politicians do and are doing right now. And by the way, this is a feature, not a bug. I know the specter of politics. This is a feature, not a bug, of the identitarian movement, which is housed in the Democrat Socialist Party. Karen Bass, she's the mayor of L.A. Just to give you some perspective here. Look around the country. Look for patterns. Karen Bass is the mayor of L.A. Mm-hmm. She was a congresswoman for quite a few years, 6 or 7 terms. Here's what she says about no cash bail. The same thing that New York moved, and then the same thing that Illinois moved with Pritzker's Purge Law, besting New York in the elimination of cash bail, pretrial detention, essentially.
I mean, it's really an embarrassment on our country that we have more people locked up in the United States than any place in the world. And if you look at the many people who are locked up, they're locked up because they're poor, because they can't afford bail or they can't afford proper legal defense. If you dealt with the poverty aspect, you could probably reduce the population by 50% with that alone. You know, why are people incarcerated just because they can't make bail?
Updating that story, one person in custody after the home of L.A. Mayor Karen Bass was broken into early Sunday morning. She was home during the robbery. She was unharmed. Well, even with a security detail.
Yeah, where
in
were
LA.
they?
Huh. Yeah.
Um,
And Baltimore?
yeah.
Here's BLM Brandon Baltimore version. Brandon Scott with a big announcement.
For too long, public dollars have simply just gone to the big names and the big players in town. And dare I say, I know my staff is going to hate this, the big names and big players in town that just happen to be white-ran organizations in Baltimore. This investment made possible through the American Rescue Plan Act. Thank you, President Biden. Thank you to our congressional delegation. Underscores our dedication to ensuring that all artists and communities have equitable access to resources and opportunities in Baltimore.
That was an announcement like the announcement that BLM Brandon Chicago made. We're using COVID funds to pay for being a welcoming city, to pay for all that we're offering people who come here illegally. BLM Brandon Scott in Baltimore, BLM Brandon Baltimore, BLM Brandon Chicago, keep them straight. That was an announcement. They're taking COVID funds and using those funds to give to minority artists because minority artists don't get enough public funding in Baltimore. They go to white organizations, as you heard BLM Brandon Baltimore say. Baltimore is one of the most violent cities on a per capita basis in the country. It's right there with New Orleans, St. Louis. Houston, the case of Mario Young. Mario Young and another dude took some stuff from a convenience store. The clerk went after him. To get his stuff back.
And the clerk
Or
got
at least-
fired?
Or at least to call, to get information so he could turn it over to police. He followed them. They shot and killed him. And he has been released.
What?
Walking to the Seneco Friday morning, the clerk walks in behind them. Surveillance shows one of the teens put a bag of chips in his pants. Both teens leave. The clerk walks out to confront them. The teens walk away. It's the last time we see them on surveillance.
He had his car keys in his hand, and he started yelling to them to come back. He's like, hey, hey. They initially looked back at him, and they flipped him off, and then they continued on their way. And he was saying, hey, again, hey, come back here. And then they started jogging.
The witness says the clerk followed the teens in his car.
He turned to kind of pull up beside them, and that's when I was up and I was turning the opposite way. Next thing you know, I heard 2 gunshots, and I looked back, and I could see the shooter firing more shots at the car.
He saw the teens run away in different directions. Rushing to help the clerk, he calls 911.
And I'm sitting there saying, hey, buddy, man, hey, dude, are you okay? So when I looked in through the window, he seemed to be unresponsive.
Community activist Quanell X says the shooter, 17-year-old Mario Young, and the second teen are claiming self-defense, saying the clerk had a gun.
Did you notice any guns or weapons inside the car?
I didn't see any guns. I didn't see a gun on the seat or next to him.
Think people are aware of that in Houston? Word gets around?
I just wanted to bring this to people because the officer who was killed, Officer Huesca, he paid tribute to Officer Andre Vasquez Lazo last year in a YouTube video.
This is not a symbol of us versus them. I hate injustices and lawlessness as well. That's why I became a cop.
Yeah, so what are you going to do about it? So it needs to stop. Yeah? Yeah, needs to stop here. Needs to stop in Houston, Baltimore, L.A., New York. Anything that those communities and so many others share Any commonalities you see there? And it's remarkable, too, because we watch cities and college campuses being taken over by these pro-terrorist protesters. And we can't muster from decent people anything more than this has to stop. This has to stop. I did my part. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
From breaking news and weather across the country to insight from the brightest minds in conservative opinion, it's Salem News Channel, home to the biggest shows on TV, like Brandon Tatum weekdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, followed by Charlie Kirk at 7. Join SNC, where facts are sacred, critical thinking is celebrated, and the pursuit of truth is unwavering. Watch Salem News Channel free, now on Zumo Play. Learn more at snc.tv/Zumo.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Ilhan Omar's baby girl says she's homeless after being suspended from Columbia University. 606.
And what a bizarre thing to brag about. We'll explain. Today, increasing clouds, milder, breezy by this afternoon, a high of 66 degrees. It is 6 a.m. WIND Chicago.
Israel's head of intelligence resigns. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Major General Aron Haliva stepping down for failing to prevent last year's Hamas terror attack that triggered the war in Gaza.
In his resignation statement, Major General Haliva says the agency did not live up to the task and he will carry the horrible pain of the war with him forever. Surveys suggest most Israelis blame Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for security failures leading up to the attack.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. The anti-Israel protests continue at Columbia University in New York City, where students will have virtual remote classes today as Passover begins, days after police made more than 100 arrests breaking up a pro-Palestinian encampment. In a few hours, former President Trump will return to court in New York. But before opening statements start at his first criminal trial, the judge will consider
what prosecutors can bring up from Trump's previous court cases if he testifies in his own defense at this trial. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office is looking to cross-examine the former president about the judgment and gag order in his New York civil fraud trial. Prosecutors also want to bring up the verdicts from the two E. Jean Carroll cases. Now, once the judge decides on that, the prosecution will formally introduce its case to the jury.
Fox's Brooke Sigmund, the former president charged with falsifying records in 2016 payments to keep an alleged affair quiet. He calls the case political persecution. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is getting new members. Ozzy Osbourne and Foreigner and Peter Frampton and Jimmy Buffett and the Dave Matthews Band will be inducted, along with some not-so-rock performers like Kool and the Gang, A Tribe Called Quest, Mary J. Blige, Dionne Warwick, and Cher. She might want to. A year ago, Cher said she'd be snubbed by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and wouldn't go in if they gave her $1 million. America's listening.
2 on AM 560, The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. We have 42 degrees, and the ATF and other federal agencies are now joining the investigation into the shooting death of a Chicago police officer. CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling says Officer Luis Huesca was shot and killed yesterday, heading home from his shift.
He was just a great officer, a great human being, and his family is dealing with a lot right now.
Huesca was found with multiple gunshot wounds in the 3100 block of West 56th and pronounced dead at a nearby hospital.
The officer's vehicle was taken, but to get to the total motive of what happened, we need more information.
Unofficially, 11 were wounded, 6 killed in violent acts across the city over the weekend, mostly in the Austin and Inglewood neighborhoods. A judge is expected today to approve a multi-million-dollar settlement between the company that botched a smokestack demolition and the Little Village residents who may have been impacted. The class action suit was filed over the botched demolition by Northbrook-based Hilco at a former power plant back in April of 2020. An investigation is underway after several were shot in Oak Forest. Police say officers responded yesterday where they found 3 with gunshot wounds. 2 of those victims were hospitalized in critical condition, while a third was later treated and released. Andrew Davis, an acclaimed British conductor, music director of Chicago's lyric opera and orchestras on 3 continents, has died. Andrew Davis was 80, passed away Saturday at the Rusk Institute here in Chicago after a nearly 2-year battle with leukemia. Cubs never led during a 6-3 loss to the Marlins at Wrigley Field. The Astros in next. White Sox continue their embarrassing start to the 2024 season, getting swept by the Phillies after Sunday's 8-2 loss. The Twins are next. 6:04 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees Trump dead on.
The world's on fire, and we have this idiot in the White House to blame. Now, normally a talk show host says things like that, not the Republican nominee for president. But it's where we are, and this is what the left doesn't get, and the Trump haters never recognize. Millions of Americans relate to this and say, you're right, you're right, you're right.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're an experienced homeowner who's outlived their assets or can no longer afford to pay your parents' housing and medical expenses, you need to call Team Hochberg about a reverse mortgage. Tammy, 73, retired, Social Security income $2,100 a month, living in a $300,000 River Grove home she owned free and clear. Tammy's real estate taxes doubled and had no way of paying off her credit card debt totaling over $90,000. Team Hochberg helped Tammy secure a reverse mortgage, pay her real estate taxes, and over 60% of her credit card debt, which saved her almost 24 G's a year. Let's review. Team Hochberg helped Tammy secure a reverse mortgage to pay her real estate taxes, most of her debt, and increased her cash flow almost $2,000 a month. If you're interested in learning more about reverse mortgages, call Team Hochberg now at 855-563-2843 or visit our website 56david.com. 855-563-2843 or 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax-advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
Can peace of mind fit into just 3 fruits and 3 veggie supplements? Yes. We start by sourcing the best fruit and vegetable ingredients. We ensure that all our produce meets our rigorous standards in order to give you the highest quality product possible. They are then washed, cut, and put through an advanced vacuum cold process that removes the water using pressure. We then take great care in grinding them into a fine powder. These powdered ingredients are then mixed and encapsulated, locking out air and moisture. The capsules are then bottled and shipped right to your door so you can experience your own personal Balance of Nature success story.
I've looked at other supplements out there, and they don't have what Balance of Nature has.
Balance of Nature really was the game changer. I'm serious, it works.
Go to balanceofnature.com and get 35% off plus $10 off any additional sets as a preferred customer by using discount code CHICAGO.
6:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And This update is a service of Del Bacchio Marchetti Group of Ad Properties, Christie's International Real Estate, with over $800 million in sales. You'll get the most value for your home. 708-828-0000. Southeast side, 106th East and westbound shutdown between Muskegon and Torrance due to police activity and the investigation of an earlier fatal accident. I-80 right now, 2 right lanes blocked with an accident eastbound between Harlem and Central. Kennedy right now stop and go already between Austin and Montrose. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In our Revive Your Lawn Weather Center, here is Steve Williams.
Clouds increasing, a little milder, breezy day, high 66. Clouds and breezy, showers mainly early tonight, low down to 53. Clouds and breezy, late day or evening thunderstorm for tomorrow, the high at 66. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
42 at O'Hare, 43 Midway, 32 in Aurora, 34 Joliet. Your next news update, 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Sort of dovetailing on the conversation we had in the first hour about the murder of Chicago police officer Huesca over the weekend, Luis Huesca.
Did you see his picture? I mean, he looks so happy, and the officer that I spoke with that knew him said he was always in a good mood. He was always so positive and just a joy to be around. And he worked in the same district, the 5th district, too, as Officer Preston, who was murdered, too, while she was on her way home from work.
Walking into her home.
I know. In uniform.
Right. But I know, it has to stop.
Right. Somebody tweeted that out,
Things
too.
men do that make them look...
Oh.
So Tucker Carlson was on Rogan's podcast recently, and he said something I've been saying for a couple of decades, but because he said it, people actually pay attention to it. So I'm going to want to replay it. So maybe if somebody else says it, other people will pay attention. I don't know. I was unable to get anybody to pay attention in Illinois, but maybe Tucker Carlson can help. And it's in the context of the foreign aid package that Speaker Johnson pushed through the House and over to the Senate for Ukraine, for Israel, and for Taiwan. About the nature of evil, Tucker Carlson on that topic. And, my version of it would be nice guys. Nice guys. You've probably heard me say on this show 100 times, everybody's nice in Springfield. Everybody's nice in Washington. Everybody's nice in your village government, your school board, your school mistress. He's nice. She's nice. And then they go to these repositories of power and do some very not nice things. And there's just a total absence of understanding that in places that have just given up on civilization, given up on living in a civilized place, being part of civilization like Illinois has.
Here's the illusion that we fall for time and again. We imagine that evil comes like fully advertised as such. Like evil people look like Anton LaVey.
Horns,
yeah.
Right. Black,
you know what I mean?
Black cloak.
Exactly.
Sickle.
Evil is an independent force that exists outside of people, that acts upon people. I really believe that. I've experienced it. A lot. And it's obvious. And what vessel do they choose? The weak. It's weak men and women who are instruments of evil. The weaker the leader, the more evil that leader will be. So and unfortunately, we've reached a time in American history where every leader is either a woman or a weak man, pretty much. And so I'm sorry to say it, that's just true. And the weaker the leader, that's why Mike Johnson, everyone's like, oh, Mike Johnson's such a nice guy. Well, I know Mike Johnson, and he's a perfectly nice guy to the extent that he's like polite and seems kind of meek and restrained, and he's not saying mother ever, you know what I mean? He's got like very sort of buttoned down affect, but he's a weak man. And that's the man you should be afraid of. The people who you should be less afraid of are the, headstrong, loud, don't care what anybody thinks. Yeah, those guys will go off track, but they're probably not going to abet, genocide or blow up the world in a nuclear exchange because they may be obnoxious, but they know who they are. Weak people just become a host for evil, an open, empty building that evil occupies, possesses even. And that's exactly what's happening to Mike Johnson. That's like absolutely crazy what Mike Johnson is doing. But it's not because he's evil. It's because he's weak and therefore susceptible to evil. It's a meaningful distinction that I have noticed.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. Tucker Carlson's hardly the first to notice this, but it is important. I mean, if, back when we used to have thoughtful people in positions like, I don't know, the papacy, you would have commentary on this very topic and reminders to world leaders, not playing sort of pedestrian politics like even our religious leaders do today, but reminding public officials, reminding people in positions of authority that their duty is to do good, and here are the forces they're susceptible to, minding Acton's admonition that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so good versus evil, your charge is to do good. And so you have to reflect upon the virtues that are supposed to provide the foundation of who you are and how you think and how you would make policy. And you're also supposed to be aware, cognizant of the pitfalls. Right, evil never comes dressed up as evil. It always comes dressed up as a false good. That is not a Tucker Carlsonism. That predates him by a couple of popes. So, at least, actually. But this is an important point to revisit because we're wooed by false goods presenting themselves as nice people who are empty vessels, who do unspeakable evil, but they do so with a room temperature disposition and sort of a hail fellow, well met, ease about them. Dick Durbin is a good example. Oh. Bruce Rauner was a good example.
Oh, yes.
Mitt Romney is a good example. There are a lot of examples. They're empty vessels who are just essentially bundles of appetites, one of them being ambition and status. And that's what drives them. And so they do things that, right, the bloviator, the bombast would not, but where he stands and he know who he is, would not do. It is an important conversation, perhaps more important than ever, as we have so many empty vessels just rife through our cultural and civic institutions. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. All those nice people. I know my alderhuman. She is a nice person. My state rep, my congresshuman, my senate human, my governor human, and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, I know them, and they're nice people. This rent seeker, yes. This rent seeker, this big contractor, he's a really good guy. Mm-hmm. Empty vessel in service of something other than your interests, Chicago's interests, Illinois' interests, society's interests. I mean, do you ever really try to think through? Is there anything that lies behind that facade of pleasantries and attaboys and let's catch up for a cocktail? And then you find curious alliances and strange decision-making that doesn't seem to square with what they were presenting or are presenting publicly or presented privately to you. You ever think anything of that? We were just having this conversation about the unions. I'm talking about the police and fire unions this time, not the usual suspects, not the usual public sector unions, AFSCME, SEIU, and the teachers. Well, is somebody off limits here? I thought you want bad things to stop. But we can't have tough conversations. I want bad things to stop, but I don't think they can, so just continue to spoon-feed me the beautiful lies. At least that's honest.
And I do think that Tucker Carlson might have listened to one of your podcasts at some point in time.
Well,
the way.
I doubt that, but
or great minds think alike. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you just if you think at all, and if you read, then you'll come upon these concepts. There's what's the slogan for, and borrow from Harry Truman, by the way, for in-depth history with Frank from Arlington Heights on Tuesdays. There's nothing new in this world. It's just the history you don't know. Yeah. Well, that's generally true of ideas. I mean, particular innovation in a particular field. But I mean, the ideas about man and society and God, there's not a lot new under the sun. It's just new to you, generally speaking, new to a lot of people who haven't taken the initiative to consume such information and consider it. Nice people doing not nice things. I can't believe how foreign a concept that is in a place like Illinois. But it is. It really is. No, not that person. Every time, I mean, long ago I stopped being surprised when, to stay on my side of the aisle, when Republicans went to Springfield and did the bidding of the other side. Long ago. We used to have these conversations all the time. Assessing not personal, this pro-life and pro-Second Amendment, whatever. It doesn't matter what the person says he or she is if I don't believe that they can stand up under any pressure. And so that was always the assessment that we made when it came to supporting candidates. And of course, we made mistakes too, and we had to make some difficult choices too, where you didn't really believe in either, but you had to take a flyer on one. Those were your options. The best options we could unearth when I'm talking about state legislative races in particular. So a lot of disappointments. It just goes with the territory. And now you hear Tucker Carlson's obvious and unsurprising disappointment with Mike Johnson after the week he had last week, and I share his disappointment. Reauthorizing FISA without a warrant provision and the aid package for Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel with no consideration for the southern border. So we have the power of the purse matters when it comes to spending other people's money on other countries. And we're hamstrung. We're hopelessly hamstrung when it comes to spending other people's money, but on those other people whose money it is to provide for public safety, first and foremost, on our border. Yeah, I think it's a difficult position Mike Johnson put himself in with conservatives.
Egg on his face, yeah.
He doesn't think so. And
no, he doesn't. And then they're all like idiots are waving the Ukrainian flag. Stop it.
Well, that was a pretty disgraceful scene. And in addition to that, did Mike Johnson move both of those measures, one or both of those measures, to secure enough votes from Democrats to say speaker if there's a motion to vacate? I mean, I'm not saying he did, but now you have to ask the question. I mean, Mike Johnson is a bright guy, and I thought this is good. You got a real conservative, a philosophical conservative, but you can be a philosophical conservative and also be weak, and also succumb to pressure or the woo of the title. The title becomes more important. I must maintain the title at all costs. And if that means cutting deals with Democrats and advancing their flag, then I'll do that. We can go back and forth because I know, I mean, on the foreign aid funding, on the FISA warrant, I can't imagine that after everything that's occurred over the last 8 years that there'd be too many conservatives who didn't want to see at least a more buttoned-down version of FISA that offered a little bit more, and it's just a little bit more restraint on the FBI. But no, because Christopher Wray said national security is at stake, and the Wall Street Journal did too. So 285,000 illegal searches of, data searches of Americans. Nah, we'll do better next time. Oh, hey, that's good enough for me. But it's got to stop. This has to stop. The lament of the powerless. Well, maybe some people, while they're reading and thinking about these things, may want to pick up Václav Havel's Power of the Powerless. There's another good manual for a peaceful, popular revolt against a oppressive political class. I don't know. I don't know what it takes to get to people. I really don't. Not in Chicagoland. Roger in DeKalb, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, just a word on the origins of the word nice as opposed to kind. Kind is actually an ancient Greek word. Biblical terms, Christ was always described as kind. People who were nice were kind. But nice actually came from 14th, 15th century Europe. I believe France, I believe Nice in particular, and it had to do with the schmoozing ability of the vendors to make a sale. So it's got sleazy origins, and it just continues to be such. So have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Roger. Yeah. So it's the right word, but not for the reason most people think. I think it's a compliment rather than just an accurate description. Craig, Mount Greenwood.
Oh, hey, good morning, Dan. Maybe thanks, Dan, for taking my call. Now, this point about Mike Johnson being like a godly man, Christian, all this stuff like that, I can see right through that thing, and I'm going to tell you how, because there's a biblical example where Jesus is talking to the scribes and the Pharisees who are supposed to be the religious elite and all that stuff. And Jesus says to them, "You're a brood of vipers, full of dead men's bones. You diligently study the scriptures because you think you're going to attain eternal life. There, the scriptures testify me." That guy Johnson, I think he's basically we're totally like way off in both categories.
Well,
nice guy and everything like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, let's not condemn him to the hellfires quite yet. We've all exhibited our moments of weakness. I certainly have, and so that last week was a depressing week. I think it was a weak, W-E-A-K, week for Speaker Johnson, but I don't think he's a fraud in terms of his faith. And certainly not his intellect. But I just don't know how strong he is. I don't know how strong he is in that environment where strength is required, and strength coming up from a position of godliness, if you will, and small c conservatism is even more needed.
Hey, real important. Now, I don't disagree with you, but my point about Mike Johnson isn't that he really or knowingly is a fraud. He doesn't know. Just like those people that are in high places with religion, they think they're preaching the truth or telling the truth, and they're lying. But I mean, I shouldn't say it. They're off. They don't really know the gospel. The gospel is one thing, and then all these other religious thoughts and religious ideas are something else. And that's what I think about Mike Johnson. He thinks he's a Christian. People around him think he's a Christian. I don't. You can tell him by the fruit they bear. You can see the decisions he makes and everything like that. Where the innocent, he's not protecting the innocent or worried about justice or anything. The things that God's interested in, he doesn't seem to be interested in.
Well, thanks for the call, Craig. I mean, I still think, I mean, I don't know, but my intuition is that he's an authentic Christian. But you can be an authentic Christian and be a weak leader. And not everybody's cut out for leadership. And maybe Mike Johnson isn't. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
A storm is on the horizon, and you need to keep the lights on no matter what. Your business relies on the power being on 24/7. It's the lifeblood of your data and computer systems. Weather-related outages from the power company are not acceptable. Your need for a source of power that's reliable 24/7, along with round-the-clock service that can dispatch technicians to your site immediately, is mission critical. Your business needs Charles Equipment Energy Systems on speed dial. These are the big boys, not residential or solar, but reliable industrial generators for emergency backup or events. When you need more than a 100-foot extension cord plugged into a small engine generator, call Charles Equipment Energy Systems. They keep the lights on with rental generators for job sites or power outages. The storm season is here. Plan ahead. Call now to prepare generators for sudden damage and potential power outages. Call 630-834-6000. That's 630-834-6000 or charlesequipment.com. charlesequipment.com.
All right, I can't wait to do it. Take my balance of nature. Why? Well, I didn't have any over the weekend. Oof. And boy, did I miss it. 6 capsules, 3 fruits, 3 veggies. I crack them open, put them in warm water, stir it up, and voila. And I feel good that I'm doing something for myself because I'm not getting enough fruits and veggies on my own like many of you. It's real food, real science, real nutrition. So get the nutrition that your body needs and get the nutrition that your body craves, because good nutrition is the foundation of all aspects of health. 800-246-8751, 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago or simply go online to balanceofnature.com. Discount code Chicago.
The future of medicine is here at QC Kinetics. QC is the nation's leader in the most exciting revolution in pain management we've seen in decades. Regenerative medicine. If you're tired of achy joints, if your joint pain is keeping you from doing what you love, you need to call QC Kinetics today. Surgery, steroids, drugs, these are no longer your best options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative treatment that delivers lasting results. QC Kinetics is under the leadership of National Medical Director Dr. Michael Scheinkup. Dr. Scheinkup is a pioneer in this field with 20 years of clinical work, research, teaching, and publishing. He wants to get you relief with a needle, not a knife. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. Appointments now available on Saturdays. Call 312-809-5955, 312-809-5955. Again, that's 312-809-5955.
Hello, I'm Donna Jeske.
And I'm Paul Jeske.
We're family farmers raising corn and soybeans in Grundy County, Illinois.
It might be hard to believe, but 96% of the farms in Illinois are owned and operated by family farmers just like us.
Our job is to grow the healthiest, most affordable food around to feed our family and yours.
Meet more farmers like us at www.watchusgrow.org/corn.
A message from the Illinois Corn Marketing Board.
This is Dennis Prager. Now you can listen to my show when it's convenient for you and without censorship from big tech. Become a member of the ultimate online community for all things Prager. It's Pragertopia Unlimited. Listen to every radio show over the last 10 years, all commercial free. You can even listen to all my Torah teachings for free. Join today and save 25% off the first year and get a free Pragertopia coffee mug. Go to Pragertopia.com or click the banner at DennisPrager.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll take up the pro-Hamas protesters and the geopolitics in the Middle East with Leah Leibovitz from Tablet at 6:36.
Miss Spice Girl's daughter has nowhere to go. Now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
41 degrees, sunshine at 6:32. And for the first time in American history, prosecutors will present opening statements today in a criminal case against a former president. Manhattan's DA says he'll challenge Donald Trump's credibility if he takes the stand. House Speaker Mike Johnson continuing to face criticism from some members of the GOP as a few call for him to be removed. Fox's Madeline Rivera is on Capitol Hill.
To oust House Speaker Mike Johnson, marking a major victory in what has otherwise been a bumpy few months of his leadership. He's getting bipartisan praise for pushing the $95 billion foreign aid bill through the House. As a rank-and-file member, Johnson largely opposed funding for Ukraine. He cited his briefings from intelligence officials as a reason for his 180 and why he decided to move ahead with a floor vote on the $60 billion Ukraine bill on Saturday. More Democrats voted to pass it, which angered hardline conservatives who didn't want to advance it without measures for the southern border. As lawmakers head to a week-long recess, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene believes they will feel the anger from their constituents and back the effort to oust Johnson.
The package includes $26 billion for Israel. 3 more are under arrest after pro-Palestinian demonstrations at Columbia University.
The president of Columbia announcing her plan to deal with this situation, saying in part, quote, to de-escalate the rancor and give us all a chance to consider next steps, I am announcing that all classes will be held virtually on Monday. This all comes as massive anti-Israel protests continue on Ivy League campuses across the country for a 5th straight day. And as Jewish students at Columbia prepare to celebrate Passover, a rabbi at the school saying they should go home. Quote, Columbia University's public safety and the NYPD cannot guarantee Jewish student safety. I would strongly recommend you return home as soon as possible.
Fox's Todd Pyro. Monroe County, Michigan Sheriff Troy Goodnow says a 66-year-old woman has been arrested for drunk driving after she crashed into a birthday party for a child Saturday afternoon.
The vehicle struck the north wall of the facility, entering the building, and came to rest approximately 25 feet inside the building, where a young child's birthday party was being held.
2 children, an 8-year-old girl and her 5-year-old brother were killed. They died at the scene. 9 other people are hospitalized, all with life-threatening injuries. The ATF and other federal agencies are now joining the investigation into the death of a Chicago police officer. CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling saying Officer Luis Huesca was shot and killed early yesterday after heading home from his shift.
He was just a great officer, a great human being, and his family is dealing with a lot right now.
Unofficially, 11 were wounded and 6 killed in violent acts across the city over the weekend, mostly in the Austin and Inglewood neighborhoods. And a judge today is expected to approve a multi-million-dollar settlement between the company that botched a smokestack demolition and the Little Village residents who may have been impacted. Cubs lost to the Marlins 6-3. White Sox an 8-2 loss to the Phillies. The news, a service of Quick Deliveries Service. Visit quickdelivery.com when you need same delivery of your routes, same day delivery, ground delivery when you need it from safe, licensed professionals. Go to quickdelivery.com now to schedule your delivery. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Brandon Tatum wants more people to step up.
I just really wish more people like me would speak out more and be more confident about it. I know a lot of black people that think just like me, but man, they just won't say. They will never tell anybody. It's not conducive for them. But if only more black men knew that other black men agree with them and that they're not isolated and they're alone in their thoughts of saying, something ain't right here.
The Officer Tatum Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards concert tickets for your daughter to see that singer who sings about painful breakups. And one song will inspire your little beauty to break up with that beast she's dating, Brian. Instead, she'll date someone who's nice and worthy of her love, not someone who addresses you and your spouse as bro. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
Chicagoland certified financial planning professional Tim Stearns discusses taxes in retirement.
Most people are paying more in taxes and keeping less of their money to live and do what they enjoy. That's why we've put out the retirement tax bill calculator online. You can see with your own eyes just how much you might be overpaying. It's a valuable tool, $500 value, but we made it free for you to view and run your own numbers at mvpcfp.com. That's mvpcfp.com.
To run your retirement tax bill calculator, go to mvpcfp.com. Investment advisory services offered through Cornerstone Securities, LLC.
Are you ready for an adventure of a lifetime? Journey with me, Mike Gallagher, and Dr. Sebastian Gorka on the Patriots Alaska cruise this summer. It's going to be an incredible opportunity to engage with other like-minded patriots on an epic 7-day cruise over 4th of July. Witness the untouched wilderness of Alaska while discussing America's future. Join Dr. Gorka and me, Mike Gallagher, from June 29th through July the 6th. Call 855-565-5519 or reserve online at patriotsalaskacruise.com.
Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code EARN for an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up. That's promo code EARN.
6:38, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is service of Rasmussen University. They offer 50-plus programs from health sciences to business to nursing, online and on campus. Are you ready to rewrite your story? Learn more at rasmussen.edu. Eden's at 23 Lake Cook Road into the junction. 50 minutes on the inbound Kennedy. From O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange. Stop and go on the Dan Ryan inbound in the locals between 43rd and the Stevenson, and they've just swept up a disabled vehicle cleared out of your way, southbound Tri-State, right at Ogden Avenue. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast in our Revive Your Lawn Weather Center. Clouds on the increase throughout the day, a milder afternoon, and a high near 66. It's 41 degrees right now. Your next news update is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. America First with Sebastian Gorka, weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Brotherly Love Spice, Representative Ilhan Omar of the Socialist Spice Girls, her daughter, who attends Barnard College, $100,000 a year, one of the 7 sisters, she was arrested, and then she was suspended, apparently, for taking part of this encampment on the campus of Columbia University to support Hamas and Iran and other enemies of the United States, to wish death upon America. You know, the usual stuff that the offspring of the wealthy and powerful are engaged in. And now she says she's homeless.
And
she's been evicted from campus housing, banned from using the dining hall. She's going to starve on the streets of Columbia University.
She says she has nothing to eat, Dan, and nowhere to live.
Mm-hmm.
And they zip-tied her for 7 hours.
It's a good start. Also, UPS executive daughter, UPS is a UPS executive's daughter, who killed an elderly couple in a crash as a teen. She was among those in the anti-Israel protest. Also, a Letitia James intern. Just an intern? Where was Letitia James herself? Alvin Bragg, too, for that matter. The whole crew. By the way, it's not just for Columbia. Columbia is getting all the ink, but I'd like to expand the circle, if I might. Yale. Lot of pro-terrorist undergrads at Yale. Like, here's one offering a rap in the face of a Jewish student as the mob, looks on campus for Jewish students to harass.
Pisos para que wavy.
Israel, Israel. I'm moving on some Palestine. Say Israel, Israel. I am mobbing on some Palestine. Free Palestine. Israel gon' die. Same land, why you out here trying to rob it? Profits, y'all just want the profit. For the book, and they went ahead and counted it. Step with caution, ain't no other options.
It's not the same, not being able to hear all the expletives, but I think you get the gist. It's less than complimentary. More from Yale. This is where the mob takes down the American flag with a bunch of honkies in keffiyehs celebrating and ululating.
Viva, viva Palestina!
You got to hear that at the end. What is needed, the coup de grace, to top off a fun pro-terrorist rally party on the campus of Yale? You know, you had the rapping and accosting of Jewish students. You had the Death to America, take down the American flag, dress up, play dress up in the garb like you're a member of the Islamic Jihad.
Right.
And what you really need, though,
What?
to top it off, I should say, well, you need the drag sermon, the drag queen sermon.
Oh, okay.
So it was
They're
quiet
involved in this
time.
now, too?
Quiet time, and all the terrorist sympathizers got together in the steps of one of the buildings and listened to some dude in drag who goes by the stage name of Tifa Wine offer this, I would say heady, but it's just like a bunch of Marxist newspeak strung together so this person's attempting to sound intelligent. But listen to this, and this went on for like 6 minutes. Come on, man, how about just a pithy Death to America chant already?
Yet institutions like Yale maintain onto the mythology that real pedagogy lives here, criticality thrives here, and that the colonial classroom can be a site of ongoing self-making. There is no place for academic freedom when dispossessed lives are on the line. We do not need to enroll at Yale to seek real pedagogy, for we all know that Palestine, Palestinian voices, and the Palestinian struggle has become one of our greatest teachers in theorizing what it means to be resilient in the face of unimaginable dehumanization and pain.
Nothing like a dude in a sequin dress saying pedagogy 6 times in 90 seconds. At Northwestern University, my alma mater.
Oh, yes.
You know what happens when if I'm talking about Northwestern, that means it's in the news, which means what?
The value of your degree goes down.
Correct. The dean of students at Northwestern attended an anti-Israel protest on campus this week that was targeting Hillel. They want the university to end its relationship with the Hillel Community Center on campus. Yeah, obviously, of course. And stop associating with the Zionist organizations and so on and so forth. And, of course, Michael Schill is a pathetic small little man, so he can't stand up to this nonsense. And I mean, they have the right to say whatever they want, but I mean, this sort of like a moral equivalence, right? The Pontius Pilate routine here. And really, it's not even Pontius Pilate because there's essentially tacit support for these illiberal forces on campus. And by the way, nothing new at Northwestern. When I was there 30 years ago, the BDS movement was already alive and well in Northwestern. I did an alternative to the daily paper with largely other Jewish students, Jewish conservatives, who are now like, brain surgeons and neurologists and stuff. And I was the weak link in that intellectual herd, obviously. But the anti-Semitism was rife on campus back then. It took different forms, but nothing has changed. It's just more people are aware of it now. And because of social media, more people are aware of it more quickly. But like the seeds of what you see at Yale and Columbia and Northwestern were planted generations ago.
Okay.
And I just don't think people appreciate that. All right, for more on all of this, there's a lot. We're pleased to be joined again by our friend Leo Leibovitz, who is with Tablet Magazine. He is the editor-at-large for Tablet. He joins us now. Leo, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hello, friends. I'm also a survivor of Columbia University.
That's right. I forgot you were a professor there, so you know this student body well.
Sadly, I do. Look, Dan, I think the last comment that you made is actually crucial. People look at this, and they ask this question that every normal, mother and father or student in America asks, hey, how could this happen suddenly? And the thing to realize here, it didn't happen suddenly. It happened over 30, 40 years. It's the result of a deliberate plan by lawmakers, by so-called intellectuals, by political operatives who hate America, to basically create these, madrasas in the heart of American cities and indoctrinate our children.
Right, and it seems to be going quite well. I mean, for them, yeah, and yet, it's despite the big flourishes that led to the ouster of Claudine Gay and the University of Penn president, and so on and so forth. I mean, you're right back to it. I mean, it snaps back that fast. This is so ingrained that a couple of heads rolling professionally will not change the landscape.
I think the only thing that would change the landscape are two beautiful English words: defund and deport. First of all, a large quotient of people. Yeah, you mentioned rightfully so, because it's the most kind of unbelievably enervating thing to understand. All of these children of immense wealth and privilege who are cosplaying, revolutionaries and waving anti-American and anti-Semitic flags. But quite a few of the people who we see behind these rallies, and again, let's remember that Columbia's acceptance is 3.8%, which means that these people were specifically chosen, an immensely large foreign student body population. We have simple laws on the books that say that if a foreign student comes here with a visa, we love this, we encourage this, we want everyone to come here and enjoy our fine, world's best educational institutions. But if you're going to come here and cheer for a terrorist organization, we have laws on the books to kick you right out. These laws need to be utilized. And second of all, we need to tell universities, basically all of which use or receive public funding, that if you do not stand up to this kind of absolute insanity, you will lose every last cent that you have in federal support.
Yeah, I mean, DeSantis has said something to that effect with respect to where he has some sway. That would be the state of Florida and state universities there. But it seems to me that even if you did that, you did attach consequences to this disturbing behavior. And I'm not saying that you don't do this, but I still think that will only result in that crew coming over the top, and it will. The only thing that would be good about that is I think it forces the hands of the administrators if something like that happens, and then they have to choose sides because so many are trying to pretend that they're not choosing sides, even though they essentially are by deference.
I think that's completely correct. Look, if we're being honest about it, and this is a sad and difficult thing for many Americans to hear and understand, especially so many of us have always come to see college, or at least for the last 40, 50, 60 years, come to see college as this great big engine of upward mobility. But that means I tell my they're 12%. I tell them 3 times a week, you are never going to college because I'm not going to pay $250,000 and waste 4 years for mutually accredited mediocrities to turn you into knots. It's just not going to happen. I think step one is to really build, alternate institutions, and some of them may be universities, like the University of Austin, Texas, which my friend Barry Weiss and others are helping to build. Some of them may be, professional schools to make sure that we actually have tradesmen who know how to make things and fix things here in America. And some of them may be completely radically new approaches to education. But we could begin. These are very large societal, sea changes. But we could begin right here at home by doing exactly what you said, Dan. Like hold these administrators' feet to the fire, and not by firing one mediocrity and replacing them with another DEI-approved mediocrity, but by actually making the university obey the law.
So what would you do if you're a Jewish student right now at Columbia or at Yale? I mean, at Columbia, they're learning remotely today. And I just, wouldn't you fear for your safety, and would you stay at either of those places?
I would leave immediately. I am frankly completely overwhelmed to try and understand why there is still a single Jewish student at Columbia. Look, Jews sadly are still somewhat traumatized by the Holocaust, understandably so. And the question that we always like to ask is, well, if the Nazis come again, what will people do? Will they rise? Will they resist? Will they protect us? You got the answer in Columbia University right now. It's not just the radicals at the encampment. It's the fact that not a single professor, not a single student stood up and said, this is absolutely revolting. Not in my name. I refuse. Give me back my money. No one did that, which as a student should tell you that you're surrounded by, moral monsters, and the level of actual education that you're getting in this place is worthless. And if the only thing they have to offer is some dwindling amount of prestige, hey, that's just not good enough reason to put your life at risk. Leave.
Yeah, Jewish students and Jewish people are literally being poked in the eye. Miss Israel literally being, her eye blackened by these protesters in New York. I mean, it's I don't know. It's pretty stark. It's the sort of the question I ask about Chicago all the time. I mean, what exactly is confusing to you about what is happening? I wanted to get your reaction to something else. This sort of two sides of the mouth type of approach that the Biden administration is taking with respect to Israel. On the one hand, moving, along with, of course, Republicans, moving aid for Israel in the ongoing war against Hamas, and mouthing the words of support for Israel's right to defend itself. And then the report is that animatronic Anthony Blinken expected to announce within days sanctions against the IDF, battalion of the IDF, for human rights violations in the West Bank. So how do you suss that out?
There's an old kind of Arab folk tale about two birds. They're watching a hunter, and he's killing birds, and it's so cold, so his eyes are tearing up. And one of the birds says to the other, look what a good man he is. Sure, he's killing the birds, but he cries over it. It gives him a great deal of suffering to take life. And the other bird says, don't look at his eyes. Look at his hands. I think with the Biden administration, you shouldn't mind anything that these people are saying. You should mind what they're doing. And here's what they're doing. They're pushing Israel to, quote-unquote, cease fire when we still have 133 civilians, including 2 babies, held captive by this beastly terrorist organization for 199 days. They're pushing Israel to build special construction so that we could drop more and more aid, knowing full well that the aid is seized by this terrorist organization that is only going to use it to inflict more suffering, not only on Israelis and Jews, but also on Palestinians. And now they're coming up with complete trumped-up charges because, God forbid, there will be one side that's morally correct and one side that's morally evil. We don't believe in good and evil. We have to create a semblance of, a cycle of violence and mutual responsibility. And so now we have to sanction the Israeli army as it's trying to defend itself. It is completely reprehensible. And honestly, at this point, any Jewish person who supports the Democratic Party is operating out of reasons that I simply can't understand.
Leo Leibovitz is the editor-at-large for Tablet, tabletmag.com. Tabletmag.com is the website. Leo, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Worried about inflation, digital currencies, political turmoil, and the future of your investments? It's time to take control with Conservative Wealth Protection Group. During these times, central banks are buying gold and precious metals at record levels. But the question is, are you? With access to the cheapest bullion in the nation, we have a deep understanding of the precious metals markets. We'll reveal strategies that both the wealthy and everyday patriots just like you are using to get the most out of their tax-deferred retirement plans. With an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau, we provide guidance without high-pressure sales tactics. Our No Fees for Life IRA program offers the lowest prices on precious metals, along with tax-free and penalty-free transfers. Explore your options with a free consultation. Call 888-964-4333. That's 888-964-4333. Protect your family and your investments. Call 888-964-4333 now.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
My name is Dr. Zhang. I'm a doctor of podiatric medicine.
My name is Todd. I'm a paramedic firefighter. I've been on the job for 28 years.
My name is Dr. Peter Munda. I'm a chiropractor in New York, Long Island.
I've been taking Balance of Nature for 23 years.
I love Balance of Nature, and this is definitely a product that I would recommend to other people, and I'll never stop taking it.
How many 70-year-old pitchers you know? As far as Balance of Nature goes, I'll keep taking this stuff until the day I die, you know?
I'm almost 55 years old, and because I have so much vitality, I can really enjoy the great outdoors. Our bodies are kind of like machines. If you do not give the machine the proper nutrition, it's not going to work very well. Simple as that.
Go to balanceofnature.com and get 35% off plus $10 off any additional sets as a preferred customer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Suburban Welding and Steel is your local welding, fabricating, and repair shop where service and quality is number one. Their dedicated team of experts can repair a job on site or in their shop located in Franklin Park. They have the machinery needed to get your project completed with the craftsmanship and precision so you can get back to business. Suburban Welding and Steel Services, more than just the manufacturing industry. They also service the food industry, heavy equipment, trucking, airports, and railroads. Walk-ins are also welcome, so if you need it welded, repaired, fabricated, or modified, Suburban Welding and Steel will do the laser cutting, machining, forming, and plate rolling for you. Or they have the materials you need in stock and ready for the purchase. And if you know a hardworking person looking for a career in the trade, Suburban Welding and Steel is looking to add to their team of experts. Visit suburbanweldingandsteel.com to see the full story on what they can do for you. SuburbanWeldingandSteel.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll talk foreign aid and FISA and geopolitics on the Hill with Steve Bucci, Heritage Foundation, 707.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
An off-duty CPD officer killed in a shooting. WIND Chicago News Times, 7 o'clock.
Anti-Israel protests on another college campus. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. This time, Yale University, where hundreds of students are right now staging pro-Palestinian demonstrations in New Haven, Connecticut, as police with riot gear stand by. While in New York City, Columbia University's president says classes will be remote today.
In a Sunday statement, she said the decision was made to, quote, de-escalate the rancor and give us all a chance to consider next steps. Campus protests have gone on for almost a week, and on Saturday, some Jewish students were targeted with anti-Semitic verbal attacks, resulting in responses from New York City Mayor Eric Adams, New York Governor Kathy Hochul, and the White House, denouncing calls for violence against Jews.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Former President Trump will soon head back to court in New York for the start of his first criminal trial that he calls political persecution. Opening statements are today.
Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has brought these charges. He says the former president tried to interfere in the 2016 presidential race by paying off Stormy Daniels to hide their alleged affair, and part of a plan that paid off Playboy playmate Karen McDougal to hide their alleged affair, too. Also, American voters would not find out about the sex scandals.
As Fox's Eric Shawn outside the court, the former president is charged with falsifying records related to the Stormy Daniels payments. An NBC News poll gives the former president a 2-point lead over President Biden, but Fox's Peter Ducey reports from the White House.
When RFK Jr. and others are listed on a 5-way ballot, that is a sign that RFK could be hurting Trump more than he is hurting Biden. Biden is also found in this new survey to be the better candidate on the issues of abortion and unifying the country, but on every other major issue, he is trailing Trump.
Israel's intelligence chief has resigned. Major General Aron Aliva says he will carry the horrible pain of war with him forever after the agency he led failed to prevent Hamas's deadly terror attack. America's listening to Fox News.
41 degrees in Chicago. 7:02 is our time on AM 560, The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The ATF and other federal agencies are joining the investigation into the shooting death of a Chicago police officer. CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling saying Officer Luis Huesca was shot and killed early yesterday while heading home from his shift.
Great officer, great human being, and his family is dealing with a lot right now.
Huesca was found with multiple gunshot wounds in the 3100 block of West 56th Street and pronounced dead at a nearby hospital.
The officer's vehicle was taken. But to get to the total motive of what happened, we need more information.
Police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the shooting, including whether the incident began as a carjacking.
Vehicle found in the alley here. We believe it was the officers. If this was a carjacking, there might be evidence inside, or an attempted carjacking, who knows?
Alderman Ray Lopez. Unofficially, 11 were wounded and 6 killed in violent acts across the city. A judge is expected today to approve a multi-million-dollar settlement between the company that botched a smokestack demolition and the Little Village residents who may have been impacted. An investigation is underway after several were shot in Oak Forest. Police say officers responded yesterday, where they found 3 with gunshot wounds.
We heard what originally sounded like fireworks, but then it was irregular, so I was like, that's not fireworks. And so I immediately was like, okay, that's gunshots.
Later, officers pulled over a vehicle that may have been involved in the shooting along 159th. Chicago sports, Cubs lost to the Marlins 6-3. White Sox continue their embarrassing start to the 2024 season with an 8-2 loss to the Phillies. Scotty Scheffler on the verge of another victory. Scheffler sitting on top of the leaderboard at 20 under par after round 4 of the RBC Heritage at Hilton Head. The news a service of Turnkey.pro. Turnkey's real-time threat hunting defends you and your employees and your customers from vulnerable cyber attacks. Turnkey has solutions to protect your business. Visit turnkey.pro. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager explains yet another line of flawed logic.
The latest is about the American Medical Association declaring that medicine is imbued with white supremacy. I didn't know that. American Medical Association, like the entire medical establishment, has been taken over by the anti-American, anti-truth, anti-goodness left. And this is what happens.
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back. But what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax-advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
Chicagoland agrees. McGrath Lexus is the overwhelming choice of luxury vehicle shoppers. Their unparalleled team of sales consultants expertly help you navigate their immense inventory to arrive at the perfect vehicle for you. With 2 convenient state-of-the-art dealerships in downtown Chicago and in Westmont, they offer 2 times the selection and 2 times the discounts. And right now, McGrath Lexus is offering a premium for your current vehicle. It will never be worth more. Make this the year you enjoy the luxury of Lexus as only McGrath can offer. Your McGrath experience will take Lexus ownership to a whole new level. Do not deny yourself this privilege. You deserve it. Visit one of our 2 McGrath Lexus dealerships in downtown Chicago or in Westmont, or visit us online at McGrathLexus.com, because
when you do the math, you choose McGrath.
7:07, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. We'll start on the southeast side, South Deering neighborhood, 106th east and westbound between Buffalo and Muskegon remains shut down due to an earlier police investigation of a fatal accident. On the Reagan, you've got big delays eastbound on I-88 between York and the Tri-State. DuSable Lakeshore Drive jams up northbound, Bryn Mawr up through Hollywood. Dan Ryan right now, 25 minutes, 95th into the Burn Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In our Revive Your Lawn Weather Center, here is Steve Williams.
Clouds and milder, breezy day. High today at 66. Clouds and breezy. Showers mainly early tonight, low 53. A cloudy, breezy day tomorrow. Late day or evening thunderstorm. The high tomorrow at 66. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
42 at O'Hare, 43 at Midway, 32 in Aurora, 46 Lakefront. Your next news update is at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I know we have serious business to address, but before we do, I did feel the need to revisit the fantastical story of the fabulist in chief. That would be Mr. 10%, the big guy, President Biden, and Uncle Bozy, who was eaten by cannibals, he insinuated. Well,
stop it.
Peter Ducey asked KJP about that at the press briefing, and here's what the White House spokeswoman had to say.
There's no evidence of that. And why is he saying that his uncle was eaten by cannibals? That is a bad way to go.
He lost his life. It's not, look, I'm not, we should not make jokes about this.
Not.
Wait.
President Biden said that his uncle was eaten by cannibals.
I mean, your last line, it's for a laugh. It's for a funny statement. And he takes this very seriously. His uncle, who served and protected this country, lost his life serving. And that should matter.
Don't joke about cannibals. She really does, KJP, drive me nuts listening to her. She is such a dim bulb, really. That should matter. If anybody is questioning the service of his uncle, we're questioning his Commander McBragg routine. You know who should be the White House spokeswoman for President Biden?
Who?
Brian Williams.
Oh.
They could see who makes up the most fantastical stories.
Yeah, that's true.
Boy. Anyway, this, by the way, while we were talking about whether or not any members of the president's family had been devoured by cannibals, this was going on in capital cities like our neighbor to the north, where they've got that grade school drama teacher they made the prime minister.
Wonder how his divorce is going.
We were just talking about what's going on college campuses. How about what's going on in downtown Ottawa?
From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. When I say from the river to the sea, you reply with Palestine is almost free, because our resistance attacks are proof that we are almost free. October 7th is proof that we are almost free. Long live October 7th. Long live the resistance. Long live the Intifada.
Long live October 7th. Long live the resistance. Long live Intifada. I think that was Ottawa. It could have been a Chicago City Council meeting, too. They're difficult to distinguish. For more on this, please be joined by Stephen Bucci. Served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. Is a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies as well. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It is always my pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Just want to be sensitive. Have any of your family members been eaten by cannibals?
Last time I checked, no. I got a big family, but I think they're all accounted for in more normal circumstances.
Okay. All right. I just don't.
So bizarre, though.
I want to make sure. Yeah.
Because the plane, Uncle
Serious.
Boozy's plane was shot down. Didn't he die in the water?
He disappeared. Yeah.
Disappeared
in the Pacific. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, he may have been eaten by something, but probably not cannibals.
They're good swimmers, some of them. I don't know. Anyway, so, Stephen, about this foreign aid bill, $95 billion worth. Ukraine gets the bulk of that. Israel in second place and Taiwan in third. Was this the right move for House Speaker Johnson and congressional Republicans to make?
It remains to be seen whether it'll be the right move for the speaker. Obviously with the rule we have now where, one person can boot you out of the speaker position, it's a strange setup right now. I think clearly support to Israel needed to happen. I frankly could have seen them give more to Israel, but the amount of aid to the Palestinians in Gaza, I'm sorry. Some of this stuff is such fiction. There's been so much aid pumped in there, and if you look at some of the math, there's been enough aid that has gotten in that the Palestinian people in Gaza should have been fed for the last year. Or for a year since this thing started with no problem at all. So all this starvation and stuff that's going on is frankly manufactured not by Israel, but by Hamas. They're the ones, once the stuff gets in there, that don't distribute it to the actual people. What they're doing with it, I don't know. They're feeding it all to their guys. Their guys would all be pretty fat by now. But so the aid part, okay, fine. So they decided to do that. But the part to Ukraine, again, there's such a split over support, continued support to Ukraine. I hope they're putting in a really robust methodology to track where every dime goes, because they're going to be required to do that in the future when somebody starts asking the questions. Not saying that there's a guarantee that they're wasted or anything else. But there's enough people asking that question, serious people, not just crazies, that there's a responsibility from DOD and Department of State to make sure that stuff is all used appropriately and they can account for every bit of it in a positive manner, or there's going to be probably some problems later on.
Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google and Alphabet and all that, he penned this op-ed. Apparently he knows something about Eastern Europe, or at least is pretending to. His op-ed in The Hill, and this was in support of the vote that happened to move the aid out of the House. He writes, the war in Ukraine has entered its third year. This one could prove decisive. Ukraine has a pathway to a military and diplomatic victory, but so does Russia. Putin is amassing a strategic reserve in preparation for a spring offensive. He feels emboldened after a sham re-election to take even more territory. Only more artillery cells and air defense missiles will allow Ukraine to halt Russian advances and turn the tide in a war that threatens its very survival. Ukraine wins if it can continue to counter Russia's onslaught with allied support. Russia wins if the West fails to support Ukraine. That's pretty generic, but is it directionally correct?
I think it is directionally correct, but yeah, it's a bit thin gruel as far as specifics that he's talking about. Putin is clearly continuing his effort to not just keep the part of Ukraine here that he has taken, but to get more of it. That's still what he wants. That's still what he's pushing to the Russian people. It's still what their propaganda is pushing around the world. And Ukraine doesn't want to give it to them. They want their terrain back, and they want to continue to be a sovereign nation with freedom to decide who they associate with and who they don't, not leaving that to Vladimir Putin.
But isn't the argument that's being made by all those flag wavers? I mean, Ukrainian flag wavers, not American, of course. The Ukrainian flag wavers in Congress that if Ukraine falls, don't make this about Ukraine, because if Ukraine falls, then other dominoes start falling. Poland gets the next knock on the door. Do you still believe that? Or I mean, I'm not saying that you did believe that, but do you really believe that? Does Putin have the not just the disposition, but the bandwidth to start rolling through former, countries that were formerly behind the curtain and trying to reassemble Mother Russia as it once was? I don't get the sense that he has that capacity. He may have that dream, but I don't think he has that capacity, does he?
I don't think he has the capacity that if Ukraine fell today, that next week he could start the next offensive into another country. It might not be Poland. It could be more than likely the Baltic countries. They're even closer to him and further away from everybody else in NATO, and less robust militarily than Poland. But would that be part of the plan? I think you can't dismiss it as, well, he doesn't really have the capability, and that's really just a pipe dream for him. I mean, who thought taking Ukraine back was, on the plate? But it turned out, and all the experts, including myself, said, well, he's just stomping his feet, doing that exercise on the border. He's never going to actually do this full-up invasion of Ukraine. And then, son of a gun, he did. He is not, he is very, very determined to reestablish what he considers his due as the head of an imperial Russian entity that is a superpower alongside of everybody else. So I don't think, it's not a sure thing, but I don't think it's one we can completely discount, that he would then turn around, maybe not immediately, take a year off as he's done in the past, and then start the next round of nibbling at the neighbors, if you will, and in some cases taking big honking bites like he's done in Ukraine. I don't think we can say that's not a possibility, to be honest with you.
Well, what do the people of Russia think about this? I mean, are they for this, against it?
From what I can ascertain from the things I've read and the people that I trust that have been inside Russia and listened to it, there's a good chunk of the Russian people think this makes perfect sense because they're being fed a line from the Kremlin that Ukraine was tuning up to attack Russia, that, there's Russian people's brave persecution inside of Ukraine. Those folks who believe that propaganda are saying, yeah, go for it, boss. But you've got to remember, they don't really have an option to not say that.
Right.
But there is significant pushback still, particularly from, the mothers and wives whose husbands and sons are going off to fight in Ukraine about this war. They don't necessarily think it's a great idea, but, they don't have the same sort of channels of dissent that we have in the West. So it's a little hard to tell that. I don't think the Russian people are behind this, but it's to not be behind is somewhat personally dangerous for Russian citizens.
Right, of course. Right. I mean, this is not something that's done by plebiscite. This is one guy's decision. But I got to tell you, the arguments being made from both sides in defense of this are, really insulting. One, this from Jerry Connolly, who's a Democrat from Virginia, on the House floor during debate.
Some say, well, we have to deal with our border first. The Ukrainian-Russian border is our border.
No, it's not.
No, it's
No,
and
that's
take care of ours first.
yeah, and then Speaker Johnson saying what we've heard before, including from Democrats, is rather send bullets to Ukraine than our men that are fighting men and women, as if that's the only choice. If we don't send armaments, then we're ultimately going to be compelled somehow to send American troops. No, we're not. That's not true. Those are both specious arguments, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they need to do a better job of making the argument that they don't have to use the bumper sticker slogans to do it, and that does cheapen the effort. Jerry Conley is kind of a demagogue, having lived
Clearly.
in Virginia.
Yeah.
He's out there. Speaker Johnson knows better than that and probably could do better. I realize he's dealing with a lot of issues at one time, but that argument is kind of weak sauce.
Well, and it's not just insulting intellectually, it's also insulting to Americans who are suffering real loss. There's this piece in the American Conservative by a gentleman named Jameson Carrier, who is actually running for Congress now in Indiana, but that's secondary. He writes, Monday, April 15th was the 2-year anniversary of the worst day of our life, the day my wife Kathy and I lost our son Joey to fentanyl poisoning. Our family isn't alone. There's been a 1,000% increase in fentanyl deaths among young people from 2020 to 2023. As we know, over 100,000 American sons and daughters are dying every year due to fentanyl. That's more than 300 Americans dying every day from fentanyl poisonings. If a jetliner was going down every day, we would stop everything and get it fixed. So, of course, in addition to all the crime that's been documented as the proximate cause of open borders with just allowing people into this country willy-nilly at their choosing, then you have obviously the drug traffickers and the human traffickers layered on top to the gangbangers and the random criminals. And so, that's the thing that's, I guess, doubly insulting, is sort of the moral indignation that comes from the political class about spending money in these foreign theaters, when in our backyard we can't seem to muster the political courage to draw a line and say nothing crosses this until this is dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree 100%. The border is a much bigger and much more significant issue to America as a whole, and just if you wanted to rack and stack the vital national interest, protecting your border is way up there. I mean, it's like the most significant. The problem you have right now is the administration doesn't see it that way, and even if you passed a law for that, I'm not sure it would survive the veto, because the Democratic Party has such a tight discipline in supporting a Democratic president. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try, and frankly, it doesn't mean you can't do both. But to do the exterior ones and not do the border is that's kind of that's a miss. That they blew it on that one.
One other issue I just wanted to get your take on too, because it's a little bit below the fold, but important since we're so focused on Putin and everybody in Congress is such a Putin bull. Niger in Africa. We've got commandos and drones, ours, being kicked out of Niger, however you want to pronounce it. And Russia filling the void left by America and the French.
Yeah, that is a significant problem. It is it's not the value of Israel and Hamas, or Russia and Ukraine, or China and Taiwan, but it is significant. The Russians are making inroads into a lot of these places in Africa in the same way the Chinese have done, and the Chinese are doing in Latin America. And that's not something we would have allowed 25 years ago, or a little further back than that. But now everybody's like, okay, well, what's the big deal? Well, it is a big deal. That gives them influence. It gives them platforms from which to do other mischief. And it's something we could counter with relatively small footprints and small investments of of effort and personnel, and to not do anything about it or to just sort of look the other way like it's not important is somewhat short-sighted in my opinion.
Well, the other issue too is that we lose a strategic location in terms of trying to combat Islamofascism and the terrorist organizations that propagate it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That there's some value in having the connection with those individual nations and their governments, certainly. But in the bigger scheme, you need to be. Africa's a big place. If you're not in Africa, you're not going to get much done from the outside, coming in periodically. You have to have some sort of enduring relationship, albeit probably, minuscule compared to what we do elsewhere. But if you're not there, it's kind of hard to take action when the need arises. And that's the other big reason we have been in there for the last 20, 25 years trying to rebuild those relationships. And now we're just sort of letting them go again.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official. He's a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies now. Stephen Bucci, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yep, thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary. Oil and natural gas keep going up as the Russia conflict escalates. Get in on the next major oil boom now and help the U.S. with your patriotic investment that can potentially pay you monthly income for up to 20 or more years. That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you're an SEC accredited investor and have at least $25,000 liquid now, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's projects and a huge tax savings for this year. If you invest in oil and natural gas, you're allowed to write off nearly 100% of your investment in the first year. Goldman Sachs is projecting oil to go up to $100 a barrel, and natural gas is the fuel of the future and trading at record prices. Call 800-287-6691. Encore Energy is a major investor and experienced operator in its core area of operations. Call now and learn how to deduct 100% of your investment and create 20 or more years of potential monthly income. Call 800-287-6691. That's 800-287-6691.
All right, I can't wait to do it. I'm going to do it earlier today than normal. Take the balance of nature. Why? Like many of you, not getting enough fruits and veggies on my own. How many fruits and vegetable helpings did you have this weekend? Probably none, and that's where Balance of Nature comes in. 31 whole fruits and vegetables, real food, real nutrition. People that take it say they have increased energy, the ability to keep doing the things they love even as they age. So be proactive. Get your health back. There's a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. So do it. 800-246-8751. 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago. First-timers get 35% off their first preferred order of fruits and veggies, and free shipping, or go online to balanceofnature.com, discount code Chicago.
It has been confirmed. Those brave Americans who are trying to preserve free speech continue to be censored, shadow banned, or silenced. Wealth Protection Research is on a mission to share the liberating ideas of some of America's brightest and most free thinkers. People like Jim Rickards and Porter Stansberry, whose ideas are putting financial control back in the hands of everyday people, helping them protect their money against a government that seems intent on destroying it. Text TRUTH to 76626 to find out more. As this election moves forward, we just released a report that reveals our 3 favorite ideas for protecting and growing your wealth during the 2024 election. These ideas are especially critical if you have an IRA or 401k. Text TRUTH to 76626. Discover ideas that are so simple and actionable they might save your retirement. Text TRUTH to 76626 now for your free report. That's TRUTH to 76626. Standard text and data rates may apply.
AM 560. The
Answer. All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 7:37, we've got Bill Maher commentary on, pedophilia in Hollywood and social justice warrior hypocrisy on the topic, and an update, speaking of which, on that Marlborough Township, New Jersey case we brought you where the mom addressed the school board last week saying, you let this teacher molest my 13-year-old daughter and didn't do anything about it. Well, something's been done about it now at 7:37.
But first, let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
43 degrees and sunshine at 7:32. Opening statements set to begin this morning in New York in the hush money criminal trial involving former President Donald Trump. Attorney John Decker says it's a big moment.
This is unprecedented. This is historical. The idea that a former president in a criminal courtroom facing charges, it's unheard of. It's incredible that this could happen.
The judge in the criminal trial in New York says prosecutors will not have to give advance notice of the witness list to the Donald Trump legal team. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is thanking the U.S. after the House passed a bill providing assistance to Ukraine. In an interview with NBC's Meet the Press through an interpreter, Zelensky says the aid is invaluable.
I think this support will really strengthen the armed forces of Ukraine, and we will have a chance for victory.
Texas Republican Tony Gonzalez doesn't believe Mike Johnson will be removed as Speaker of the House. In an appearance on CNN, Gonzalez says Johnson will survive.
I think Mike Johnson's going to avoid the cannibals in his own party here. He stood up to him this weekend, and the adults retook control of the U.S. Congress.
The House passed a series of bills to provide military assistance to Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. A separate border bill failed. The NFL draft just days away, Thursday in Detroit. Bears have the first pick for now. The list of 2024 inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame include Mary J. Blige, Dave Matthews, Foreigner, and Kool and the Gang. Yeah, those guys. Robert Kool, Bell of Kool and the Gang, says they actually were a rock and roll band before they went into R&B. Ozzy Osbourne and A Tribe Called Quest are also in. Here in Chicago this morning, the ATF and other federal agencies are joining the investigation into the shooting death of a Chicago police officer. CPD Superintendent Larry Snelling says the officer, Luis Huesca, was shot and killed early yesterday, heading home from his shift.
He was just a great officer, a great human being, and his family is dealing with a lot right now.
Police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the shooting, including whether the incident was a carjacking. A judge is expected today to approve a multi-million-dollar settlement between the company that botched a smokestack demolition and the Little Village residents who may have been impacted in April of 2020. A woman is dead following a stabbing on the south side. It happened Saturday in the 7700 block of South Trumbull. A person of interest has been brought in for questioning. And Andrew Davis, an acclaimed British conductor who was music director of the Lyric Opera of Chicago and orchestras on 3 continents, has died. Andrew Davis was 80. Cubs lost to the Marlins 6-3. White Sox an 8-2 loss to the Phillies. The news, a service of In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr. Sunday morning at 6:30 right here on AM 560. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Another reach from the White House.
The Biden administration is proposing a sweeping initiative to slash student debt for nearly 30 million Americans. The proposal marks a major new White House effort to appeal to progressive and younger voters. What is this actually what Joe Biden is doing? This is naked bribery.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Have you saved enough? What are you going to do with Social Security? What will your taxes look like in retirement? Scott Tucker believes retirement planning should be easy, and you should be able to get all the information you need in one place. That's why Scott created the Retirement Decoded Toolkit, a comprehensive resource for your retirement. In it, you'll find a copy of his latest book, Escape Illinois, Should I Stay or Should I Go? This book will provide insight on taxes, Social Security, income, and more. To get your free Retirement Decoded Toolkit, text KIT, K-I-T, to 847-474-3888 or go to retirementdecoded.com. Now, in addition to the book, you'll also receive resources on retirement's most common concerns. Get your Retirement Decoded Toolkit from Scott Tucker right now by texting KIT to 847-474-3888 or go to retirementdecoded.com. Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC. A registered investment advisor, this is a paid placement.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
My name is Dr. Zhang. I'm a doctor of podiatric medicine.
My name is Todd. I'm a paramedic firefighter. I've been on the job for 28 years.
My name is Dr. Peter Munda. I'm a chiropractor in New York, Long Island.
I've been taking Balance of Nature for 23 years.
I love Balance of Nature, and this is definitely a product that I would recommend to other people, and I'll never stop taking it.
How many 70-year-old pitchers you know? As far as Balance of Nature goes, I'll keep taking this stuff until the day I die, you know?
I'm almost 55 years old, and because I have so much vitality, I can really enjoy the great outdoors. Our bodies are kind of like machines. If you do not give the machine the proper nutrition, it's not going to work very well. Simple as that.
Go to balanceofnature.com and get 35% off plus $10 off any additional sets as a preferred customer by using discount code Chicago.
Are you ready for an adventure of a lifetime? Journey with me, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, and my friend and colleague Mike Gallagher on the Patriots Alaska Cruise this summer. An incredible opportunity to engage with other like-minded patriots on an epic 7-day cruise over 4th of July weekend. Witness the untouched wilderness of Alaska over pristine water, all while celebrating America's past and future. June 29th to July 6th. Call 855-565-5519 or go to patriotsalaskacruise.com.
From breaking news and weather across the country to insight from the brightest minds and conservative opinion, it's Salem News Channel. Home to the biggest shows on TV, like Sebastian Gorka, weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, followed by Stacey Washington at 5. Join SNC, where facts are sacred, critical thinking is celebrated, and the pursuit of truth is unwavering. Watch Salem News Channel free now on Zumo Play. Learn more at snc.tv/Zumo.
Don't pay retail for your diamond engagement ring or gift. Come to cleanorigin.com.
Let's get a check on the roads at 7:39 in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. Kennedy inbound, accident left shoulder at Montrose. You're backing up to Nagel. 74 minutes in from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Inbound on the Ike, accident on the exit ramp to Damon. 90 minutes in from 390 into the old post office. Dan Ryan in 35 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. DuSable Lakeshore Drive jams up northbound at Bryn Mawr. Tri-State jams up northbound right at I-88. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast in our Revive Your Lawn Weather Center. Clouds on the increase throughout the day, milder, breezy, high 66. Mostly sunny and 43 right now. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Remember that? Like one hit wonder from the 80s? Remember that? When they were like glam rockers and they're doing this like robotic dance.
Yeah,
Remember that?
Yep.
I was just thinking more because there was a more cannibal talk during Mike Scott's newscast. Tony Gonzalez talking about the cannibals inside the House Republican caucus. I hope they keep Biden's relatives alone.
I mean, they keep. But did you see when he was making that statement in Scranton, Pennsylvania? There was a dude behind him who was like, "What is he talking?" about? I thought I was here for, touting the economy and inflation numbers. You're talking about your uncle or grandpa who was eaten by cannibals in Papua New Guinea?
Uncle Bozy.
Uncle Bozy, yeah.
Yeah, you would have thought that, over the last 50 years, you would have heard about Biden uncle serving in World War II, was eaten by cannibals. That seems like a story that would have gotten out by this point. But, hey.
Oh, it's such a bad lie. Oh.
All right,
delusional.
so a couple things here. First of all, I wanted to update our listeners on the Marlborough Township, New Jersey school situation. Mom addressed the school board last week claiming that a teacher is on video molesting her 13-year-old daughter, and the school board tried to sort of brush it under the rug and allow the teacher in question to quietly retire. Mom was having none of it. This is, some of what she said last week.
Failed my daughter. You failed to establish mechanisms to prevent abuse, to prevent the atrocity that happened down that hallway to my 13-year-old daughter. My daughter was sexually abused in this school, in a hallway, on a camera, by your teacher, Jenna Shabika. You let this predator in our school. No denying.
And since she went public with that, the police had been essentially alerted. They investigated. Now that teacher in question, 38-year-old female, has been charged with one count of harassment. She denies the allegations, but regardless, she has been charged. So police found enough probable cause to make an arrest in the case. So good thing Mom spoke up.
Yep.
Let that be a lesson. And Dad, too. Dad was there.
Oh,
I guess her father and the woman's husband, she said, had going through chemotherapy, so he didn't talk. She talked on his behalf using the 6 minutes for the two of them. And good for her. So, just, closing the circle here. Yeah, sometimes you're not just spitting into the wind. You may be spitting into the wind in terms of addressing that board, but you pressure politicians into acting, or law enforcement to act where politicians are afraid to, or or they're just complicit with bad behavior that's going on under their watch. I mean, it's just nice to, close the circle on some of these where you do speak up and you do get results.
It's good to get a win sometimes.
Pressure. The trick of politics, as Milton Friedman famously said, is getting the wrong people to do the right thing. Stop waiting for the right people and pressure them to do the right thing. Right. Although you could, places like Chicagoland, you could make a lot better choices, too, from the available options, but I digress. So that brings us to this rather interesting commentary from Bill Maher. I'm not a huge fan because I think he is generally what he decries, and he doesn't understand that sort of his atheistic, quote-unquote, libertarian philosophy is the source of so many of the societal ills that he then bemoans. And he's mainly in the interests. He mainly comments in the interests, even though when he turns his sights on the left, he's mainly saying, "Be better, because I want you in charge." That's what he's mainly doing. He's not. Bill Maher is bolting from. No, he's not. Saying, "Be better. You're going too far. I want to win elections. I want you in charge." That's different. But nonetheless, I'll give credit where credit's due, and it's due here.
Oh yeah.
Because he is exposing something that, again, the press corps, the political press corps, the entertainment press corps, averts their eyes from. Although this Quiet on the Set documentary about Nickelodeon is opening some eyes, like the Neverland documentary on Michael Jackson did. And here was Bill Maher over the weekend on his program, talking about that documentary and what it says about Hollywood. and the hypocrisy of the leftist cultural, the leftist cultural mavens in this country, the rich honkies in wealthy suburbs and on lakefronts, like in Chicagoland.
Or ocean fronts in California.
Or ocean fronts in California. Their rank hypocrisy. And I mean, and could the issue be any more serious when it's the sexual exploitation of children? They're still hypocrites about it.
So I don't know if this documentary is the talk of your town, but it is out here because it didn't just expose a dangerous workplace. It also exposed hypocrisy. Because it must be pointed out that when the evil governor of Florida was saying the exact same thing about kids and creepy stuff at Disney that liberals now find intolerable at Nickelodeon, he was dismissed as a hick and a bigot. But why would a kids' content factory like Disney be all that different than the one at Nickelodeon? A 2014 CNN report discovered that at least 35 Disney employees had been arrested for sex crimes against children, and in 2021, Disney child star Allison Stoner confessed she only narrowly survived the toddler to train wreck pipeline. The next year, child star Cole Sprouse told the New York Times that young actresses at the Disney Channel were heavily sexualized from an early age. You know, Willie Sutton said he robbed banks because that's where the money is. And the reason we find pedophiles in the Boy Scouts and the Rectory and kids' TV is that's where the kids are. DeSantis wasn't wrong, but we're so tribal now, the left will overlook child f***ing if the guy from the wrong party calls it out.
Don't say gay.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You can also reach us on our text line, 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment. And I love what Bill Maher said at the beginning, too. He's like, I don't have kids. I don't even like kids, but why am I always defending them?
He left out something in his list of the Boy Scouts and the Rectory and Nickelodeon or Hollywood.
High school?
Government schools.
Government schools, yeah.
Yeah, government schools. We talk about hypocrisy. Anybody want to talk about the Chicago public school system? Talk about government schools writ large? There's been academic studies of it. We've talked about innumerable times. The Shake Shaft report and subsequent studies actually confirming her initial findings and suggesting it's even more prevalent than she estimated. Who's taking up that as a cause celeb? Right. And on the Disney and Nickelodeon comparison, for all the heat that DeSantis took from all of these ignorant wealthy honkies on the North Shore and in the Western Burbs and in places like Oak Park and River Forest. Don't say gay, bigot. Exactly what Bill Maher said. So, yeah, Nickelodeon and Disney. Remember Brian Peck? Bill Maher does.
And get this, after Brian Peck, who was one of the lead creeps at Nickelodeon, served 16 months in prison for the molesting he did there, Disney hired him, naturally to work on a children's series. Oh, for pedophiles in Hollywood, it's a small world after all.
Zing. The social justice warrior, as Maher calls it, hypocrisy, these cultural Marxists. But of course they're hypocrites. I mean, the idea that, I say again, I mean, this is fun and it's a good rant that he goes on, but remember, hypocrisy is part of their privilege. There is no requirement for intellectual and moral consistency because this is the naked advance of political power by any means. And I don't know why we expect them to be consistent or fair-minded. I mean, that those are not traits that get you to the sort of power over other people that they desire. And since they're not getting punished for their barbarism, why would they stop? Why not have rules for me and other rules for thee? We're the vanguard class. You're the unwashed masses.
And people who believe in social justice have agreed this is wrong and this is bad, and exposing kids to an adult world of lurid costumes and garish makeup borders on abuse. Now, hurry up and get in the car. We're late for Drag Queen Story Hour. Not that there's anything wrong with being a drag queen, but maybe it's time to admit that sometimes Drag Queen Story Hour is more for the queen than the kids.
Oh, you think?
Sure, kids love a clown, but does the clown have to have... And when I see a 5-year-old tipping at a bar under a sign that says it's not going to lick itself, do I have to pretend that's cool in order to keep my liberal ID card? Sorry, I can't do that. If you want kids to be more tolerant, why not have handicapped people read them stories? Kids are more likely to encounter disabled people than drag queens in life. Geez, can't we just go back to the good old days when kids were read simple stories with simple morals like, if you're a lonely single man, just make a boy out of wood?
Pretty funny. Yeah. How about that? Right. All this. Oh, by the way, I don't know if she was listening, but did you just catch that? Leslie Sadowski Fugit, Downers Grove Village Board. We spent a lot of time dealing with that monster last week. Did you catch that? Did you catch what Bill Maher said? It's not Dan Proft saying it.
It's
Bill
what he
Maher
said.
talking
It's
about your
you.
hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Grooming, sexualizing kids. You know, you keep pressing it, and he talked about all the books and all, and then you're surprised. Oh, and all of a sudden, when they were having that fight in New Trier Township over the banners, where New Trier neighbors wanted religious freedom, but of course, Wilmette is all LGBTQIA2S+++, and right. It's so invisible it has to be everywhere. One woman, got up there during public comment. She talked about having like 2 trans kids. You know what the odds of that happening?
Slim to none, and Slim left town.
Yeah, this is
Unless you're pushing
This
it
is
on
social. This is social contagion. You push, and all of a sudden you get something back. What a surprise! And you don't. If you don't want to call that grooming, then you come up with another term. Of course, the hypocrisy, and then these trained seals in the audience just laugh and clap along when they've been party to all this nonsense. That's what's so frustrating. But at least Maher stuck the landing. At least he made the point, and maybe it will have some resonance somewhere. I doubt it, but all you can do is tell the truth, I suppose. Mike in Littleton, Colorado.
Hey, good morning, and thank you for taking my call. Honestly, it doesn't even resonate with him. If that guy was given choice, Bill Maher, between Donald Trump or Mark Robinson and a pedophile, he would either choose not to vote or he'd vote for the pedophile. That's our problem. And so would the SEALs in the audience.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we do about that. I mean, the psychosis of the nation. Woo. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, right. So he defends DeSantis for being unfairly slimed by all of those yapping SEALs in his audience. And but at the end of the day, right, if it was DeSantis versus whoever in Florida, pick your off-the-shelf leftist. Where's Bill Maher? Where are you going to find Bill Maher? With the off-the-shelf leftist. Right. Even though he's pointing to the same thing that Maher is otherwise heroically standing up for in his own mind, which is the prevention of the exploitation of kids. But you're not allowed to do that. I mean, so that happened, but then this is the actual culture. You saw the story about this 18-year-old student who penned like a 130-page manifesto about carrying out multiple school shootings in Montgomery County, Maryland. And Montgomery County, Maryland's like Cook County in terms of the demographics, political demographics. It's completely lost its mind. It was like one of the lockdown centrals, enthusiastic lockdowners, and everything left, and everything cultural Marxist. And it turns out that the student that they arrested is a chick pretending to be a dude.
Mm-hmm. Transgender, yeah.
Yeah. Right, here we go again. Another example. And so a reporter questioned the Montgomery County executive, this guy named Mark Elrich, like, why are you not saying the characteristics of this person. You're not disclosing that this person identifies as a woman who identifies as a man. That this girl has, well, he didn't say it this way, but I'd be basically insinuating that this girl has a mental illness, and that maybe is part of the discussion here.
What is the reluctance of the county to admit that this individual was transgender? This is the fourth time that we've seen this happen very recently. And right here, I hear all of our leadership saying to us today, and what we do in journalism here, we try not to do, is bury the lead. Why am I hearing about this from the New York Post?
Because it's not a lead. How do you publicize every time somebody gets murdered that it's a white Christian male who's heterosexual? No, you don't. Are these the only crimes that get committed? You never publish somebody's sexual orientation when you talk about this. Why you focus on it?
Let me try that again.
What is the reluctance of the county to admit that this individual was transgender? This is the fourth time that we've seen this happen very recently. And right here, I hear all of our leadership saying to us today, and what we do in journalism here, we try not to do, is bury the lead. Why am I hearing about this from the New York Post?
Because it's not a lead. How do you publicize every time somebody gets murdered that it's a white Christian male who's heterosexual? No, you don't. Are these the only crimes that get committed? You never publish somebody's sexual orientation when you talk about this. Why you focus on it being a transgender is beyond me. It is not a news story. It is not a crime to be transgender, and I'm sorry you feel that way.
That's not what I said.
Yeah, right. He didn't say it's a crime to be transgender, but that's the straw man argument you erect when to not even hide your hypocrisy, to come over the top of your hypocrisy with moral indignation, which is a good example of what happens routinely.
Yeah,
and Bill Maher's little commentary is not going to change that.
If they're a white male Christian, they tell people, and then white Christianity is not affected with or related to white supremacy.
Of course,
it's a whole rigmarole every single time.
Identity matters when it's convenient for us, and it doesn't matter when it's inconvenient for us. Of course. Chris Northbrook, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, just what happened to men raising men, and following along with what got us all to this point. Lucky enough to be from an affluent area, but I've gone through the same problems inside my family as well. And there's nothing wrong with standing up for the values that got us where we're at, and believing in what's right and wrong. And if we don't stand up for it, we're going to lose it all.
Thanks for the call, Chris. Appreciate it. Coming up at 8:08, we'll be joined by James Burnham, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General at DOJ. We'll talk about special counsels. He doesn't want any more of them. That's 8:08.
And you got to hear what Governor Pritzker is bragging about. It's so bizarre. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
Several wounded in an Oak Forest shooting, and an off-duty Chicago police officer killed in a shooting. Cubs fall to the Marlins. Sox get swept. And WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
Another big pro-Palestinian protest on a college campus. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's at Yale University this morning. Hundreds of students angry over Israel's war in Gaza demonstrating in New Haven, Connecticut. Fox's Madeline Rivera reports.
Cops arriving at the school, blocking off entrances to a plaza at the New Haven campus. Here's that police officer warning protesters they will be arrested if they don't clear out.
No one will stop you from leaving. If you do not leave, you will be arrested. We will give you time to leave.
The editor-in-chief of the Yale Free Press was covering the protest when she was suddenly surrounded by demonstrators. She told the New York Post she was stabbed in the eye with a Palestinian flag.
Now, the anti-Israeli anger is still simmering at Columbia University days after New York City police broke up an encampment, making more than 100 arrests. The university's president said all classes will be virtual today, trying to de-escalate the situation. Andrew Parker Stein is a Columbia student and just told Fox he no longer feels safe.
I promised myself after Saturday night, after our group was attacked by a mob of pro-Hamas supporters, that I'm not stepping on campus while this is happening, and I don't know what that means for finals. I don't know what that means for the rest of the semester.
Now, the Jewish holiday of Passover starts today. President Biden put out a statement saying we must speak out against the alarming surge of anti-Semitism. Former President Trump's on his way to New York court for the start of his first criminal trial this morning.
We will hear the case against Donald Trump today.
And we will hear the case for him as opening arguments begin in this historic and sensational trial.
Fox's Eric Shawn outside the courthouse.
The former president, when he arrives or leaves, he makes statements. Today we expect no difference. He will likely continue to harshly attack this case.
He's charged with falsifying records and 2016 payments to keep an alleged affair quiet. The search continues in Chicago for a cop killer. Whoever shot Officer Luis Huesca on his way home from his shift early yesterday morning. America's listening to Fox News.
Sunshine and 43 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. The ATF and other federal investigative agencies are joining the investigation into the shooting death of a Chicago police officer. Superintendent Larry Snelling saying Officer Luis Huesca was shot and killed early yesterday.
He was just a great officer, a great human being, and his family is dealing with a lot right now.
Huesca was found with multiple gunshot wounds in the 3100 block of West 56th Street and pronounced dead at a nearby hospital.
The officer's vehicle was taken. But to get to the total motive of what happened, we need more information.
Unofficially, 11 were wounded and 6 killed in violent acts across the city over the weekend, mostly in the Austin and Inglewood neighborhoods. A judge expected today to approve a multi-million-dollar settlement between the company that botched a smokestack demolition and Little Village residents who may have been impacted. An investigation is underway after several people were shot in Oak Forest. Police say officers responded to the 5500 block of Babbitt Court. They found 3 with gunshot wounds. Later, officers pulled over a vehicle that may have been involved in the 5900 block of 159. One occupant was detained at the scene. Chicago sports found the Cubs losing to Miami 6-3, White Sox an 8-2 loss to the Phillies. The news, a service of Crosscom Public Adjusters. If your home or business has an insurance claim, Crosscom will help you get what you need and have coming to you. They've helped thousands. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com. It's 8:04. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Verizon earnings are coming in. Earnings top forecast, but its revenue was disappointing. The company says it was a strong year, and Verizon is on track to meet its financial goals for the year. Verizon shares are up 3%. Stock futures are recovering ground after last week's sell-off. Mideast tensions have eased, crude oil prices have moderated, and gold prices are softening. Clothing company Express has filed for bankruptcy protection in the U.S. and will close more than 100 stores. It also owns the brands Bonobos and Up West Express. America's biggest bank is closing its location on Wall Street. J.P. Morgan Chase shut down its branch at 45 Wall Street on Friday, ending more than 150 years of doing business on Wall Street. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosolda, invested in you.
AM 560 news time is 8:05. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka sees another cover-up.
Merrick Garland is refusing to release the audio of Special Counsel Robert Hur's deposition of Joe Biden on the illegally held classified documents that he kept for decades in his garage. You know, the one where he couldn't remember what year his son died or when he was vice president. Refusing to release.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
You have to feel good. When you feel good, you look good. And when you look good, things happen. My name's Gary. I exercise almost every day. I'm more active than the average 71-year-old man. I started taking Balance of Nature, and I can feel the benefits from it. It's been a little bit of a revolutionary product. I stand behind the product. I stand behind what I say. Balance of Nature, it's a great product for me.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order, plus $10 off any additional sets with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
It has been confirmed. Those brave Americans who are trying to preserve free speech continue to be censored, shadow banned, or silenced. Wealth Protection Research is on a mission to share the liberating ideas of some of America's brightest and most free thinkers. People like Jim Rickards and Porter Stansberry, whose ideas are putting financial control back in the hands of everyday people, helping them protect their money against a government that seems intent on destroying it. Text TRUTH to 76626 to find out more. As this election moves forward, we just released a report that reveals our 3 favorite ideas for protecting and growing your wealth during the 2024 election. These ideas are especially critical if you have an IRA or 401k. Text TRUTH to 76626. Discover ideas that are so simple and actionable they might save your retirement. Text TRUTH to 76626 now for your free report. That's TRUTH to 76626. Standard text and data rates may apply.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax-advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
It's 8:09. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of ReviveYourLawn.com. Don't DIY, RYL. Revive Your Lawn with the landscape and design experts. Outdoor patios and kitchens, hardscapes, lighting, and more. Get an instant online estimate today at ReviveYourLawn.com. Kennedy right now, 90 minutes from O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange are solid between Austin and Montrose due to an earlier accident. On the Ike, stop and go inbound through the avenues, Des Plaines Avenue all the way to Ashland. Stevenson inbound jam solid Harlem to Kedzie, 1 hour in from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. The outside, a major problem on the outbound Stevenson between Harlem and the Tri-State. You've got an accident, 2 left lanes blocked involving 2 semis. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In our Revive Your Lawn Weather Center, here's Steve Williams.
Clouds increasing, a little milder, breezy day, high 66. Clouds and breezy, showers mainly early tonight, low down to 53. Clouds and breezy, late day or evening thunderstorm for tomorrow, the high at 66. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Mostly sunny and 43. Your next news update, 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We have some sad news to report because he was such a friend of the show. He'd appeared on our show many times, and I just did a podcast with him for American Greatness, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Really good. He was a smart guy. Kevin Brock former assistant director for counterintel for the FBI. You've heard on this show. Maybe you read some of the op-eds he wrote for The Hill and other outlets. He passed away last week, 69 years old, and I was reading. I guess he had been battling cancer for a while, but I had no idea. At legacy.com, there are a lot of great testimonials from obviously former colleagues and people that knew him. I'm going to post one myself after the show. But yeah, Kevin Brock, he was great because one of the things that he was able to do is talk substantively about the agency he worked at for almost 3 decades. To talk honestly about it, like he loved the agency, he loved the work, he loved a lot of the people that he worked with. He would be very frank about all that, but he also recognized where the agency had lost its way and the individuals who were responsible, and he was willing to name names, and he was willing to talk publicly in a way that a lot of people won't do, because they don't want to. I'm besmirching my agency, and I don't want to cast a negative light on people whose work I do respect there by criticizing the leadership whose work I respect less and so forth.
He just wanted to hold them accountable.
Well, right. And if you don't have an agency that's accountable to us, to the American people, then, and it has that much power, then you got a real problem. And he recognized that America is more important than the FBI, and the FBI is supposed to understand that rank order of importance. Anyway. So, yeah, very sad news to hear of Kevin's passing. All right. Bill Barr was on with Neil Cavuto the other day. Of course, Cavuto asking about Trump and who he's going to support.
See if he doesn't want to.
See if we can get a story out of this. Bill Barr is, mum on Trump and so on and so forth. It's sort of idiotic stories the D.C. press corps loves. Anyway, but Barr went through his usual cost benefit on Trump. But the bottom line is that he sussed this out correctly.
At the end of the day, you have to remember, serving in his administration, I was fine with his policies.
Right.
I think his policies were good policies. My problems came with his behavior, which I found very troubling after the election, and I think I think the idea that he's going to be an autocrat and take over power like some right-wing dictator is not the threat facing our country. The threat facing our country is from the far left and the drift that's been occurring toward really a socialistic system. And one that brooks no opposition, one that cancels people, that has only one viewpoint taught in colleges, that tries to push parents out of the picture when it comes to the education of their children. It's a heavy-handed bunch of thugs, in my opinion, and that's where the threat is.
He's right about that, but some of Bill Barr's behavior, too, in retrospect, was a bit troubling, not in the sense that there was I don't think there's anything unethical, but I think that upon further reflection with what we know over the last couple of years, he was a little bit slow on the uptake. And maybe that's because he was an institutional man for so long. But he let things go on that shouldn't have gone on, in my view, which is why I'm pleased to have our next guest to talk a little bit more about that. James Burnham, Senior Associate Counsel to the President, Deputy Assistant Attorney General at DOJ, and Counselor to the Attorney General under the aforesaid AG Barr. He's now the Principal at King Street Legal, PLLC. James Burnham, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Barr's, since you wrote this piece over at City Journal opposing any future special counsel, so maybe we'll start there and then fold in Barr because, of course, he appointed one. I think my sense of the summation, I guess, of your piece is the special counsel. I mean, the independent special counsel, like a Jack Smith, is indistinguishable from the regular prosecutor, like a Fani Willis or like a Alvin Bragg. And I know that's federal and state, but I mean, the comparison holds up. The point is, there's no such thing as an independent special counsel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there should be, and I think when you have someone like that, things sort of inevitably get out of control because the attorney general doesn't feel like he has an obligation to supervise the prosecution. It's a quote unquote independent prosecution. And then inevitably, when you have a special counsel where the target is known in advance, as there always is, and as there was with Smith, the people who join the team tend to be people who really want to go after that target. That was certainly the case with the Mueller investigation, which I, played a small part in as a witness. The team was very Democrat based on their past political giving. Elizabeth Logger. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Andrew Weissman. I mean, they're all on MSNBC right now.
Right. Exactly. You got it.
Yeah, and so right. So I mean, but so on the special counsel though piece too. So he saw the whole thing happen with Mueller, and he's a sophisticated guy. I'm talking about Barr. He's been around D.C. for a long time. He knows how this works or doesn't. And then that Durham investigation just labored on and on and on. And there was no appointment of a special counsel. I know you're arguing against them categorically, but I mean, we're either going to do this one way or we're going to do it another way. When it came to Biden Incorporated, and then now we get, then you get Garland that appoints Weiss, who tries to cut an unholy deal, and Hur, who pulls the punch on Biden because he's congenial and old and forgetful or some such thing. When it comes to classified documents, I mean, it's just a mess. And doesn't Bill Barr? I mean, is it fair to say that Bill Barr had a blind spot there?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, the Durham, I was not involved in the Durham investigation in any meaningful way, but my sense was, and I think the AG Barr said this publicly, part of the problem was COVID really slowed things down. I mean, you couldn't get a grand jury. So in order to file subpoenas and things like that, you need to get the grand jury together in person. And many of the courts shut that down for over a year. And so it was it was unfortunate. I don't know that there was an obvious way around it. In terms of appointing more special counsels, I don't think that would be, would have been a good idea then or was necessary. I think the accountability for the Biden, the things with Biden and David Weiss falls squarely on Merrick Garland's head. And the Senate has an obligation to hold him accountable for that when he comes for hearings, as does the House. It's an outrage.
Well, but okay. So then if no special counsel, then how about Barr's Department of Justice? Where were they? The FBI had Hunter's computer, the laptop we know now for a year while Barr was Attorney General. So, I mean, the whole Biden Inc. operation, it seems like Barr completely missed or was uninterested in.
Yeah, I really couldn't say because I left the department in May of 20 and I was not privy to any of the inside knowledge about Hunter and the current president or any of that. So I really just don't know. But I do think that the current Justice Department has an obligation to investigate everything that is happening and can do so without special counsels. I don't think they needed to appoint Robert Hur. I certainly don't think they needed to appoint Jack Smith. And they have an obligation to run this stuff down and prosecute it if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
And rather than have the two-tiered system we have now, where you've got Jack Smith, the war crime prosecutor, running full speed, and everything that's happening involving the current president going at 1/4 speed.
Do you really see a world where we wouldn't have special counsels anymore? I mean, do you think that is actually feasible?
Absolutely. I think the Justice Department is fully capable of investigating the current president, the former president, as needed. I mean, Mueller is a great example. I mean, the Deputy Attorney General at the time, Rod Rosenstein, could have easily convened some sort of prosecutorial task force to investigate whatever he felt needed to be investigated about Russia collusion. He could have supervised it, and if he had found, as he did find, and as Mueller found, that there was no there, he could shut it down and say, look, there's nothing here. We're moving on. And that would have been much better than letting Mueller spin out of control for 2 years.
Right. And I mean, so just going back, I mean, just in terms of doing a case study for lessons learned, thinking about how to do this prospectively, was Sessions got a lot of criticism for recusing himself. Was he wrong to recuse himself, delegate that to Rosenstein, and watch that play out as it did over the course of the better part of 2 years?
Yeah, so I wasn't, I don't know what advice he got from the career ethics people, but my view is you're the Attorney General of the United States, appointed by the President, confirmed by the Senate, and boy, the standard is awfully high for you to recuse, particularly on something that is going to the heart of the new administration like this. where it seems pretty clear in retrospect that a lot of people in the Obama administration had been setting this up for a while as sort of a spring trap to catch us as soon as we came into office. So I don't know if he would call a mulligan now if you ask General Sessions, but I was not a fan of that decision at the time, and I think it looks like it may not have been the right call in retrospect.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the Jack Smith classified documents case and the Her report and the recommendation there, and ultimately how that plays out in court? Because the judge in that case seems to be pretty skeptical of this seemingly different standard of prosecutorial discretion when it comes to classified documents.
Well, look, so I think in some ways this highlights the problem, or one of the problems with special counsels. It makes no sense to have two different independent decision makers applying different standards on their own when both are nominally part of the Justice Department. And so I do agree that the same standard should obviously be applied to President Trump and President Biden. And when you have two separate independent people, you run the risk of applying different prosecutorial standards, and it just looks ridiculous, like a two-tiered standard of justice. And that's obviously bad. As far as Judge Cannon, the judge who has the classified document case involving President Trump, she's gotten a lot of heat in the press for, I think, being appropriately skeptical about Jack Smith's extraordinarily aggressive attempts to make this case happen and make it happen on a political timetable. To me, I do a lot of defense work, that doesn't involve people like President Trump. And criminal defendants in high-profile cases get railroaded all the time. And I guess I'm kind of glad to see that, at least here it's getting some attention and that Judge Cannon has the fortitude to stand up to these guys.
Well, yeah, and they also, all of, how incestuous the world in D.C. is, and so sort of these worlds generally speaking when you get to the upper echelons. But we find out like Merchant, the judge in the in the case in Manhattan, his daughter does work for Schiff and all these antagonists with political antagonists to Trump and so on and so forth. But that doesn't even raise the appearance of a conflict of interest. So he says he's the arbiter of what's a conflict of interest, of course, not going to recuse himself. Jack Smith's wife made documentaries for the Obamas, worked with Hillary Clinton. I mean, so, and not to mention what his sort of profile is as well, that's well known. It's going back to, we were talking about Andrew Weissman and FBI, McCabe and Comey, and everybody ends up with this book deal from the same place and sitting on a contributor gig at MSNBC or some other outlet that's antagonist to Trump. I mean, but none of this is a conflict of interest. All of those people are able to separate their political dispositions from their professional responsibilities, we're told. And if mistakes are ever made, they always just seem to be made in the direction of negatively impacting their political opponents. It's very curious how that works. So I just, that the whole thing, it seems to me, just you need Republicans to lead on this, to say there is no such thing as this. This is like unicorn stuff when you're talking about these independent prosecutors who are just there to look at the facts objectively and apply the same standard regardless of the political affiliation of any particular target of an investigation. That's just complete fiction. And now, over the last 8 years, very few people believe it, no matter how many times you say it anyway. So you might as well just acknowledge the truth. At least that would be my advice and counsel to President Trump if you were reelected.
Yeah, I don't think, there will be people around. If the president is reelected, or President Trump is reelected, he will have people telling him that he should appoint a bunch of special counsels to investigate Biden and, his various antagonists. And I would just say that's a bad idea. It's not going to work. He will get no benefit of the doubt in the way that Jack Smith and these guys get the benefit of the doubt. The courts will not. It'll get portrayed as being a total political witch hunt, led by him. And it won't work. And so if he wants to investigate things that should be investigated, he should appoint a smart, competent attorney general, and that attorney general should do it inside the Justice Department with, prosecutors. The attorney general can select the prosecutors, but then needs to supervise and be able to defend what the investigations are doing. I think that's the only way it would work.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're going to be Trump's handpicked lawyers one way or the other. So, right. I mean, so you might as well do it in the cleanest way possible. What do you have any perspective on the FBI and working with the FBI under Comey or Wray, particularly against the backdrop of FISA being re-upped last week? Or moving towards re-upping?
I think the FBI is it is a difficult institution to deal with when you're in the government. And I don't think there's much question that the next administration needs to think hard about how to kind of get the FBI more in line with the Justice Department. I mean, one of the things that somebody told me once that I thought was a good point is, so the FBI director is supposed to report to the Deputy Attorney General. I mean, not supposed to, they do. They're below the Deputy Attorney General on the org chart. But the FBI director has an airplane and the Deputy Attorney General has no airplane. So what does that tell you? And so Comey is an example. He had been the Deputy AG before he was the FBI director. People shouldn't see it as a promotion to go down the org chart, but you get the plane, you get the building. So I think if President Trump does come back, I don't think there's much question that Chris Wray would probably leave of his own accord. That's what everybody seems to think, and that checks out to me. He should appoint a director who's willing to sort of put the FBI back where it's supposed to be, which is a subordinate sub-agency of the Justice Department, not some Praetorian Guard independent agency that nobody can control.
Anybody you recommend?
That is beyond my competence.
Okay.
I don't know. Not me.
I like that. That's a really good point about who's got the plane, just to give you a sense of the FBI's sort of mission creep, or more than creep, actually. James Burnham, Senior Associate Counsel to the President, Deputy Assistant Attorney General at DOJ, and Counselor to the Attorney General under Trump and Barr. He is now the principal at King Street Legal, PLLC. James Burnham, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This Mother's Day, treat the mom in your life to a day she'll never forget with brunch at the Trump International Hotel and Tower in beautiful downtown Chicago. Brunch reservations are available now for Sunday, May 12th, with seatings from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the Grand Ballroom. Experience an exquisite meal in a buffet style. Feast at the decadent carving, omelet, and dessert stations. Enjoy drink specials, live entertainment, complimentary champagne, and a beautiful rose garden backdrop for memorable photos. There's no better place to celebrate this Mother's Day than as guests of Trump Chicago, where you'll find the most iconic views of the Chicago skyline. Delight in this one-of-a-kind extravaganza. Make your reservations today by visiting eventbrite.com and search Mother's Day Brunch, Trump Chicago. That's Eventbrite, search Mother's Day Brunch, Trump Chicago, and order your tickets today. Cheers!
All right, choosing where to send your kids to school is one of the most important decisions of your life, the most important decision we make as parents. And even as this school year is coming to an end, you might be thinking about where to send your kids to school in the fall. You need to know that private school might be an option for you and your family, thanks to our good friends at Half Price Schools, halfpriceschools.com. At halfpriceschools.com, you'll find many different private schools from all up from Chicago to the Chicagoland area, offering a full year of tuition for half the normal price. And you could take advantage of this great opportunity. It's simple. Find a private school near you, purchase a tuition voucher, and prepare to send your child off to school this fall. HalfPriceSchools.com has schools all across the Chicagoland area, including Christian Liberty Academy in Arlington Heights, St. Peter Lutheran School in Schaumburg, St. Andrew's Lutheran School in Park Ridge. The list goes on, but do not delay. Next school year will be here before you know it. Visit halfpriceschools.com today. That's halfpriceschools.com.
Oh, I cracked the hull of my new ski boat today. Oh my gosh, why'd you do that? It's not like I was trying to do it, you know. Sorry, that's rough, my bad, bro. Did anyone witness this epic fail? Yes, there's videos galore, and now I'm a meme.
Accidents don't just happen in sea shanties, so Progressive Boat Insurance has you covered. Take as little as 4 minutes to see what you can save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Covered subject to policy terms and not available for all boats or in all situations.
Hi, Rhett Rasmussen of BestHotGrill.com. Step up your grilling game with our Solaire portable infrared grills. Our compact everywhere is a favorite of RVers and trailer pullers. Solaire Infrared provides the quick sear for bar marks and texture needed to properly finish sous vide. Use a portable alongside your larger conventional grill to create an instant sear zone and more juicy and flavorful food. Learn more at BestHotGrill.com. Affordable, powerful, portable infrared grills at BestHotGrill.com.
Donald Trump Jr. here. Since January of 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but you can stop your losses by diversifying into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. That's SHELTER to the number 989898 to get your free info kit from Birch Gold now.
Message and data rates may apply.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
I'll talk to our old friend Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace, about this latest pronouncement from the UN. The UN's climate chief says we only got 2 years now. We got 2 years.
That went quick.
We're down to 2 years to save the planet. We're not even going to make it to 2030 if we don't move post-haste. And Germany is jumping on it. Weekend driving bans is something that's been proposed. Anyway.
And happy Earth Day, Dan.
Is today Earth Day?
Yes, today's Earth Day, because we heard all about it in church yesterday. I wanted to vomit.
I always get Earth Day confused with Earth Hour. When is Earth Hour?
I don't know,
When
but
you
I'll
shut off
find
your
out
electricity.
For you.
Yeah. All right. We'll ask Patrick Moore at 8:38.
All right, but now let's head into the newsroom. Here's Mike Scott.
47 degrees, 832. Magazine publisher David Pecker is set to be the first witness in former President Donald Trump's hush money trial today, according to the New York Times. The head of Israel's military intelligence directorate has resigned over Hamas's October 7 terror attack. The major general, the head of military intelligence, becomes the first senior Israeli figure to step down over failures surrounding the attack. In an interview with ABC's This Week, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCaul said Speaker Mike Johnson did the right thing by moving some bills over the weekend and that featured security both abroad but not at home. McCaul says Johnson displayed a profile and courage in getting the foreign policy money passed.
I am so proud of the Speaker, Mike Johnson. He went through a transformation. At the end of the day, profile and courage is putting the nation above yourself.
North Korea on Monday test-fired suspected short-range ballistic missiles into the sea. One crew member is dead, over a half dozen others missing after 2 Japanese Navy helicopters crashed into the sea off the southern coast of Japan. Chicago police are mourning the death of an off-duty officer, CPD Superintendent Larry Snellick, saying Officer Luis Huesca was shot and killed early yesterday while heading home from his shift.
He was just a great officer, a great human being, and his family is dealing with a lot right now.
He was found with multiple gunshot wounds in the 3100 block of West 56th Street.
The officer's vehicle was taken. But to get to the total motive of what happened, we need more information.
Police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the shooting, including whether the incident began as a carjacking. An investigation is underway after several people were shot in Oak Forest yesterday. 2 of the victims hospitalized in critical condition. Later, officers pulled over a vehicle along 159th. One person in the vehicle had a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. The other occupant was detained at the scene. The remains of a Chicago area soldier who died as a POW in World War II now set to be laid to rest. The Defense Department announcing that U.S. Army Private First Class Harry Girelli of Berkeley was accounted for last December. Scientists using DNA analysis and historical records to identify his remains. He will be buried in Elwood on October 6. Cubs lost to the Marlins 6-3. White Sox continued their embarrassing start to the season with an 8-2 loss to the Phillies. The news, a service of Indeed.com. Their all-in-one platform helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. And Indeed's interview tool lets you schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from their website. Visit Indeed.com/credit. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Oh, the signs of spring are upon us. Birds are singing, crocuses are popping up, and your concrete is sinking. Permaseal can help with that. I'm Roy Spencer with Permaseal. As you start your spring cleaning, you'll likely see some cracked or sunken concrete, a sidewalk, stoop, driveway, or your patio. These problems will only get worse with time, but there is an easy solution. Our poly-level system can raise and level concrete quickly and effectively, putting an end to eyesores and dangerous trip hazards. Call today for a free estimate. 800-421-SEAL. Polylevel is the quickest, least expensive, and most durable system to repair your sunken concrete problems. Don't live with a problem that will only get worse.
Permaseal has been making Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana homes healthier and more valuable for over 45 years. Call today to receive 10% off or up to 18 months no-interest financing. Don't replace it, raise it. Call 800-421-7325 or visit permaseal.net.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
You have to feel good. When you feel good, you look good. And when you look good, things happen. My name's Gary. I exercise almost every day. I'm more active than the average 71-year-old man. I started taking Balance of Nature, and I can feel the benefits from it. It's been a little bit of a revolutionary product for me. I stand behind the product. I stand behind what I say. Balance of Nature, it's a great product for me.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order, plus $10 off any additional sets with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
But look around you. Your family, your faith, they're not in the way. They are the way.
From the creators of Jesus Revolution comes the incredible true story.
It's going to be dangerous and scary, and giving up is not an option.
The story of one family's journey from down under to center stage. Unsung Hero, a For King and Country film starring Candace Cameron Bure and Terry O'Quinn. In theaters April 26th. Visit unsunghero.movie to learn more. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
8:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And we start on the Edens where it's 21 in Lake Cook Road to the junction. 70 minutes in on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike, a full 90 minutes, 390 into the old post office. Stevenson accident, right lane blocked inbound between the Veterans and Lamont Road. Right now, 51 minutes from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And the outbound side has an accident. 2 left lanes are blocked as a couple of semis tangled outbound between Central and the Tri-State. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Clouds on the increase. Milder for the afternoon, a high of 66. Currently 47. Your next news update is at 9, and Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Simon Steele? He's the executive secretary of the UN Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It's a mouthful. The next 2 years, it's make or break it for the planet. Where have we heard this before? Essential to in saving our planet. We still have a chance to make greenhouse gas emissions tumble with a new generation of national climate plans, but we need these stronger plans now. That's what he said. The main task for the UN's climate negotiations in Azerbaijan is for countries to agree to a new target for climate finance to support developing nations struggling to invest in shifting away from fossil fuels and fighting climate change. Oh, you mean developing nations like China and India? We're going to need to come together with a plan to finance China and India so they could reduce their emissions by shifting away from fossil fuels as they're building coal-fired plants? Sure. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a good plan.
That's plausible. We need to help figure out a way to finance Bill Gates wanting to cut down millions of acres of forests in the Pacific Northwest to bury the trees to reduce climate emissions. Need to finance the removal of cows, the replacement of them with camels or some such animal that has less methane emissions and so forth. 2 years and lots of cash. Same old playbook. They're just updating it, would seem to me. But let's ask our next guest. He is Patrick Moore, the co-founder of Greenpeace, the author of Fake Invisible Catastrophes and Threats of Doom. Patrick Moore, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Nice to be back with you, Dan and Amy.
So, 2 years, and we got to come up with some cash. The backdoor Green New Deal in America is nice, but that's just the beginning.
CO2 emissions have increased again this year to a record level. This is a good thing because that's what plants want to grow. Our food and all our forests and all our wildland are benefiting from the emissions of CO2. CO2 is invisible. That is why they get away with claiming that it's harming the world, because no one can see it. And if you can't see it, you don't know it. It's a simple fact in science that observation is the most important part of discovery. You have to see it, and you can't see carbon dioxide. The fact is, every commercial greenhouse grower in the world pumps extra CO2 into their greenhouse to get 30 to 50 to even 70% increase in growth of the crops that they are growing for us to put on the table. And this whole thing about invisible is the real problem. You know what else is invisible? Radiation. And they're saying that nuclear power is a problem because of radiation. Well, you can't see it, so they can make up any story they want, and it's all a big lie.
But
For some reason...
Well, they argue, you can't see it, but you can measure it. And so here are the measurements, and here are the projections. And we took these measurements and we put them in a model, and here's the projection. And if this projection is accurate, you know how it goes. The global temperature increases by X percent or by X degrees over the next 20, 50, 100 years. Then here's what we know will be the implications per the output of our models. And this is what drives all of the apocalyptic talk.
Yes, but the fact is, it is impossible to predict the future of things like CO2 and the effect it would have on the climate. We do know, theoretically, that even if it had some effect, it would be extremely small compared to water vapor, for example, which is also invisible, but which is one of the main drivers of the temperature of the Earth. Then there's clouds. Clouds are far more important in terms of warming and cooling. But the really actually hilarious thing about all this...
Hello?
Did we lose Patrick Moore?
Patrick, are you there? Or maybe he accidentally hit the mute button.
Or where the UN climate chief did. All right, let's try to get Patrick Moore back on the line. We'll be right back.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
For over 23 years, Applied Mechanical Sales has offered boilers, water heaters, and exhaust venting to commercial mechanical contractors. They aid in the selection of standard and high-efficiency hydronic system equipment for replacement or new construction. From schools to churches to high-rises and hotels, Applied Mechanical provides high-quality, cost-effective Camus boilers and water heaters in many of Chicago's most iconic buildings. Mechanical design firms trust Applied Mechanical to support them by specifying the size and type of boilers to best match a building's load profile for the worst of Chicago weather conditions. Engineers and contractors can be confident that they'll experience trouble-free operation for the next 15 to 20 years. Applied Mechanical Sales ensures their boilers are properly installed and operate at peak efficiency long after the initial startup. Go to appliedmechanicalsales.com to schedule a site visit and boiler replacement assessment. That's appliedmechanicalsales.com.
The future of medicine is here at QC Kinetics. QC is the nation's leader in the most exciting revolution in pain management we've seen in decades. Regenerative medicine. If you're tired of achy joints, if your joint pain is keeping you from doing what you love, you need to call QC Kinetics today. Surgery, steroids, drugs, these are no longer your best options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative treatment that delivers lasting results. QC Kinetics is under the leadership of National Medical Director Dr. Michael Scheinkupp. Dr. Scheinkupp is a pioneer in this field with 20 years of clinical work, research, teaching, and publishing. He wants to get you relief with a needle, not a knife. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. Appointments now available on Saturdays. Call 312-809-5955, 312-809-5955. Again, that's 312-809-5955.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right, Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace, rejoins us now. Patrick, we got you? We have Patrick?
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is. Okay. You were just about to deliver a punchline and we lost you. So you were saying that the real funny thing about all of this apocalyptic talk and the projections and predictions and is what?
Well, Antarctica, for example, is 5 million square miles of ice, bigger than the United States, even including Alaska and Hawaii. 5 million square miles of ice. That's because we're in an ice age. And the North Pole doesn't have quite that much because it's a bit warmer in the Northern Hemisphere than it is in the Southern Hemisphere. But we are in an ice age. This is one of the coldest periods in Earth's history. Life did just fine when there was no ice on the Earth for 150 million years before this ice age set in. And it took 50 million years from the peak of the temperature, the Eocene thermal maximum. Look it up. It's a real thing. It happened 15 million years after the dinosaurs went extinct from an asteroid that hit the Earth, which was a lot more exciting than what's going on now. Right now, we are in a cold period. And actually, I'm in Baja, and I've been coming here for 25 years, and it's colder this spring than it has been since I started coming here. The ocean is still too cold to swim in. And so, but everybody's talking about how this is the worst heat that anybody has ever seen in the history of the planet. Well, since 1850, apparently.
So back,
there were quite a few years before 1850, like 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, and people should wake up and do some study. It doesn't take much. Look up the Eocene thermal maximum, and you will find out that the Earth was much warmer, and life was flourishing in Antarctica. There were forests there at one time. That was a nice period of time. The Sahara was green at one time. But when it gets cold, there isn't as much moisture in the air. There isn't as much rainfall in these areas. And the people who lived on the Sahara 8,000 years ago had to go into Nile Valley, and that's where Egypt started. So, I mean, there's so many actual easy truths to convince you that this is not a hot period in the Earth's history. We know this for a fact. And computer models cannot predict the future.
Well,
If
you
the
have
climate is,
you've got your 50 million years, but Greta Thunberg, her climate strike is in week 296. And just last week, Stockholm took a part in it, and they're demanding climate justice now, whatever that is. When you watch these movements and you see the protestations and the lists of demands and the pronouncements from lofty perches like the World Economic Forum, what do you think is going on?
What is going on is the use of fear of the future to control the population. It's as simple as that. You know, it wasn't that long ago they were burning witches. It wasn't that long ago that they were throwing virgins into volcanoes as a way to appease the gods, or whatever you want to say. And we still are a very primitive psychology and hierarchy of the people who, like Bill Gates, I mean, for goodness sakes, he wants to cut down forests and bury the wood.
Right.
The wood is what is absorbing the CO2. And let them grow. Don't cut them down and bury them. That's about the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And Bill Gates is one of the stupidest people that exists on this planet for having, he surely has had an opportunity to get a decent education with all of his wealth. But
so the bottom line is you think they're all doing this, and like Bill Gates, just to maintain the population of the planet?
I have no idea what possible rationale there is for saying that we should make the Earth cooler than it is now, when you have 5 million square miles of ice on the southern pole, where there were forests not that long ago geographically, or whatever you want to call it. In terms of the time of the Earth, it's 4.6 billion years old, this Earth. And life began almost 4 billion years ago, maybe 3.75 or something like that. We don't know. There's two things we'll maybe never know. How did life begin, and is there any other life in this universe besides this planet? And most people think, well, of course there must be. Yeah, no. You can't say that if you don't know it, if you haven't seen it. You know, this is, people project the future when they have absolutely no clue what is going to actually happen. I mean, look at what's going on in the United States and Europe, Canada, a few other countries are trying to stop the increase of carbon dioxide emissions. Meanwhile, China is tripling theirs practically. I mean, it would be funny if it wasn't sad.
And
people are falling in with this.
What should we make of, all this anecdotal reporting is, this much of the polar ice cap has melted, but then there's other reporting about, well, this shoreline that was supposed to have disappeared by now has actually grown. All of this sort of one-off about either some animals' numbers or some iceberg or some island's shorelines or, amount of ice in the case of glaciers. We're supposed to divine real importance from these developments. How do we process that?
We process it by knowing that the warmest oceans in the world are in Indonesia, and there you have the highest number of corals and reef fish on the planet. Mm-hmm. So if the Earth warms, the reefs will expand, because the thing that is controlling their growth is cold water, not warm water. The Earth was much warmer 50 million years ago, and the coral reefs expanded over a much larger area. We know that for a fact, and yet they go on about how if the Earth warms, the coral reefs will die. No, if the Earth warms, the coral reefs will expand, into the warm oceans that would be happening. But we have absolutely no evidence whatsoever that the Earth will continue to warm. We're in what is now a 300-400 year slight warming period called the modern warm period. The Roman warm period was warmer than it is now, and that was only 2,000 years ago. We are in now a 6,000 year slight decline in temperature, and if it matches up with the previous 2.5 million years of interglacial periods and then glacial maximum periods, we are headed now into the 80,000 year or so descent into the next glacial maximum. So you don't have to worry about your kids. It's not going to happen that fast. But in terms of the patterns that have been occurring during this Pleistocene Ice Age, you have this pattern of interglacial periods and then glacial maximums. There's been about 40 of them, and it appears very clearly in the record that we are headed into a downward trend for the next 80,000 years, if it follows the same pattern it did for the last 2.5 million, where it's very clear. We know that from Antarctic ice cores, from all kinds of proxies, that is the pattern that has been occurring on this planet since it went down into the Pleistocene Ice Age, which we arbitrarily call 2.6 million years ago. That's
right.
Where we say, okay, now we're in an ice age, and we've been in it ever since.
All right. Well, we'll keep updating this every couple thousand years with you to see how this is tracking along. Patrick Moore,
that's a fine repost you have.
Patrick Moore, co-founder of Greenpeace, his book "Fake Invisible Catastrophes and Threats of Doom." Patrick Moore, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Come on with this, people. Move it!
Did you really think you could make that company deliver yourself?
Oh, I cannot handle any more traffic.
You could be getting much more done at your place of business.
I've wasted 45 minutes and now this place is gonna close.
Time is money. Let Quick Delivery Service take on the traffic hassle for you. They'll deliver almost anything, from large pallets of materials to important documents, or both. No forms, no labels, no scanning. Just tell Quick Delivery Service where it's going, they'll pick it up, and get it to your destination quickly. Your cargo delivery is tracked in real time with GPS. Notifications are delivered right to your inbox. Visit QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. Or you can deliver like this.
Seriously, another train?
Or get your delivery there on time with QuickDelivery.com. Or call 847-534-2244. 847-534-2244.
AM 560. The Answer.
All right. Another day of excellence in broadcasting. Thanks to Justin Kosick, our technical producer, and Quinn McCarthy, our executive producer. Go have yourselves a wonderful day. Now into the newsroom we go. Here's Mike Scott.
An off-duty Chicago police officer killed in a shooting. Several wounded in an Oak Forest shooting that continues to be investigated. A woman stabbed